Chapter 31 Bestly Chosen Gifts. The thoughtfulness of Zhou Qian at any time and place. When he got out of the car, he went around the trunk. Shen King was a little curious and took a look at the past few steps and saw that he was taking gifts. There are many gifts in his trunk. Maybe he came back from a business trip and prepared gifts for everyone around him. And even his suitcase was still there. He really came to find her when he left the airport. I need to trouble and I'm sorry. So I also brought her a gift. When Zhou Qian said this, he closed the trunk and glanced inside curiously when he saw Shen King's eyes. He smiled and there were a lot of gifts. Yesterday, I asked my assistant to buy them for me in advance and prepared them for everyone around me. Without Shen King's question, Zhou Qian said this himself. Is it also prepared for my father in advance? Shen King was surprised. She thought it was because she was going to the door, so she gave the gift in order. To count the gift. Your father is my father-in-law. Zhou Qian looked at Shen King and couldn't laugh or cry. Zhou Qian has also included the Shen family in the scope of the people around him, but to be honest, his father-in-law is indeed quite close. Shen King just nodded leisurely, moved his lips, and finally did not say what was in his heart. The father-in-law has been counted. What about her future wife? Two people entered Xue's store together, and Xue entertained them warmly. In the chat between Xue and Zhou Qian, there were many professional words about the communication about wedding dresses. Zhou Qian will patiently explain to Shen King again in easy-to-understand words. Only then did Shen King know that what he had said before was not right and not rigorous, because he was indeed. And Xue used to be a regular designer of their family, and she was familiar with them. When Zhou Qian was a child, she was also interested in it. So Xue led her into the door. Later, he took the opportunity to study and take the certificate. He is a serious designer. He just doesn't need to develop in this direction, and he doesn't have to live on this. After the wedding dress was finalized, it was already dark, and Xue also asked them if they wanted to have dinner together in the evening. When Zhou Qian took her away, she told Xue that she would go home first next time. He just came back from a business trip and didn't put his luggage. It's really me to go home. And Xue didn't leave any longer. When the two returned to the side of the car, Shen King stopped. Why don't I take a taxi back by myself? Don't see me off. It's troublesome to run back and forth. Shen King didn't want to visit his house again, so it's the best choice to live separately now, which will not waste the time of this Hogwarts banquet. Don't you want to have a look? Zhou Qian looked at her. I didn't say hello to your father in advance. I thought I went back to our home. Zhou Qian looked into her eyes, said this, paused for 2 seconds and continued. The decoration was finished. I want to go over and have a look. You go with me to see the effect, and recognize the door. When I came back before, I sometimes lived there. I just said hello to my father and didn't go back. Seeing Shen King's silence, Zhou Qian said this again. Well, Shen King nodded and silently opened the co-driver's door. In fact, when she sat in the car, she didn't think about whether Zhou Qian would go back to his father's place or not, but that she suddenly realized that Zhou Qian's place was really a room where orphans and widows coexisted, and it was still a place to be used as a wedding room. It feels quite subtle. The movement of Zhou Qian's car pulled her back to her senses. She looked up at Zhou Qian. Zhou Qian had smiled and handed her an exquisite small gift box. Your gift, lipstick. Shen King blurted out that he suddenly had such a premonition. Zhou Qian smiled and did not deny it. He came a little closer to her, and then whispered that your gift was bought by myself. When Zhou Qian said this, Shen King subconsciously swallowed saliva, perhaps because Zhou Qian's breath was too close. Zhou Qian's eyes fell on her lips and continued to speak. His tone seemed to be a little ambiguous, and I specially asked the clerk that the lipstick color was very light, and kissing would not fade. Chapter 32 It will be wrong. Zhou Qian's house is very big. After Shen King entered the door, he looked up and looked around. Finally, he raised his head and his eyes fell on the bright chandelier. Those were already there. This time, they just added some soft clothes. Zhou Qian followed her gaze and said this. Shen King nodded and looked at Zhou Qian. Zhou Qian put her luggage by the door, and then poured her a glass of warm water. When he handed over the water cup, Zhou Qian smiled again. I put my luggage first, and then took a shower and looked around by yourself. When Zhou Qian said this, he pulled the suitcase again and pushed it in the direction of the room. When he got to the door, he turned to look at her. There were still several rooms over there, and you can also visit them. Okay. Shen King nodded and looked at Zhou Qian's figure and entered the room. Shen King held the water cup, but he didn't really drink it. Not good, very bad. Shen King sighed and shook his head. He came back and stayed with her for most of the day. When he got home, he cleaned up the east. It's normal for she to take a hot bath, but I don't know why. He always feels very subtle when he says to take a shower in her. She put down the water and put it on the coffee table, then took a deep breath and raised her steps. Shen King was not really in the mood to visit. He just took a look at the living room, and then went to see the other rooms. They were all very well decorated. Out of the room, Shen King subconsciously looked at the room where Zhou Qian was. So what does Zhou Qian mean? Before, Zhou Qian asked her how she wanted to get along with her. Later, she drank too much and kissed her in the car. Now she brought her back and took a shower when she entered the house. It should be that she didn't want to treat each other as outsiders, right? She walked over step by step. As soon as she stood at the door suddenly opened. I finished washing. What's the matter? Zhou Qian was quite surprised when he saw Shen King, but he still asked gently. This man has arrived at the door. He is probably looking for him for something. Don't want to drink water. When Zhou Qian spoke, his head was slightly tilted. His eyes swept over her side face, looked at the sofa behind her, and saw the glass of water on the coffee table. Oh, no. Shen King quickly waved his hand and looked slightly. He could just see Zhou Qian's chest in a bathrobe at this moment. Well, I drank it. Shen King quickly turned his eyes away and did not dare to look up at Zhou Qian. He simply turned around directly, then sat down on the sofa, picked up the water glass, and quickly took a big sip in front of Zhou Qian. Haha, Zhou Qian smiled. When he came over, Shen King glanced at him secretly, but did not dare to glance at him wantonly. Zhou Qian sat down beside her. He was wearing a bathrobe like this at this moment, and Shen King didn't know where to look. Are you still satisfied with me? Zhou Qian looked at her face and asked. Satisfied? Shen King nodded and still did not dare to raise his eyes, but he could feel that Zhou Qian's eyes did not move away from her face, but a little deeper. Shen King swallowed his saliva, and his heart tightened a little. Zhou Qian stared at her with interest for a few seconds, then sighed softly, leaned back and leaned against the sofa. He took his mobile phone out of his bathrobe pocket and waved to Shen King. With the other hand, come here. When Zhou Qian called her name, Shen King bit her lip and took a deep breath, as if she had finally ventured out. She suddenly got up and walked to Zhou Qian in 2 steps. As soon as Zhou Qian looked up, he saw Shen King's enlarged face. Shen King sat down directly face to face and sat on his lap. Zhou Qian held his mobile phone tightly and pressed the screen black without making a sound, so Shen King did not see the takeaway page on the screen. 大写 T. He came back from Anxue. Until now, they haven't eaten yet. Zhou Qian is worried that she is hungry. Although she can live here, she hasn't put any ingredients here recently. At this moment, Zhou Qian's face did not change, but his eyes still shrank. He didn't say anything. He just turned his head slightly and looked at Shen King, who was close at hand. Shen King also looked at him, but the eye contact would only make her feel more entangled. She simply held Zhou Qian's face, then closed her eyes and put her head directly on his lips. Zhou Qian didn't move, and his deep eyes stared straight at her trembling eyelashes. Shen King's kiss was very green and clumsy. Zhou Qian's palm was slightly loose and let the mobile phone slip from his hand. He gently clamped the back of Shen King's head with one hand and deepened the kiss. The other hand had already held her waist, and then easily turned over and pressed her on the sofa. The arch of the sofa behind her back made Shen King open her eyes timidly. She could see Zhou Qian's face in front of her. Feeling that she opened her eyes, Zhou Qian stepped back a little and looked at her with burning eyes. Looking at each other, Shen King could hear the sound of his heart fluttering and jumping to his throat. She couldn't let go. That night, she had no way out and had the mentality that she must succeed. Now, she has succeeded, but she can't have that kind of courage. 大写 M. 8 people's hearts are so complicated. At that time, she only thought about success and didn't care what Zhou Qian thought of her. Now, she began to be entangled in her heart, entangled with Zhou Qian's words, and even considered the meaning of his words. So now, does Zhou Qian want her to take the initiative or to be reserved? How much more important will she take if she takes the initiative or is reserved? After chatting, Zhou Qian looked at her and suddenly smiled. He got up and pulled Shen King up together. The two changed back to their previous posture and sat on his lap face to face. Shen King looked at him and said nothing, as if he was waiting for his evaluation of her performance just now. Since we are going to get married, I hope we can all be together for a long time, so it is very important to be honest with each other. What do you think? When Zhou Qian said this, he looked up at her and did not put down his hand around her waist, but he was not more presumptuous. I don't know what your ideal lover looks like. I don't know what I should do for your husband so that we can live a more harmonious and long-term life. There are indeed many things we don't know and are not familiar with each other. Therefore, you can tell me directly about many things, many preferences or joys or injustice. Shen King looked at him and digested the meaning of his words. Zhou Qian's hand on her waist patted her twice, which was quite soothing. He smiled and continued to say, for example, if you don't want anything to happen to me now, nothing doesn't have to happen, and there's no need to pander to me. Shen King didn't say anything, but lowered his eyes. Zhou Qian looked at her and smiled. I haven't lived here for a long time. There are few clothes in the wardrobe, and the clothes in the suitcase have to be washed again, so I wear a bathrobe. Chapter 33 I am satisfied with you. Zhou Qian deliberately went back to the room and changed his clothes. When he came out of the room again, he first set an example for frankness. He sat on the sofa, then took his mobile phone back in his hand and turned it around. He said, I'm leaving here today. If you leave, I'll be alone, so I want to have a meal with you here and have a companion. What about you? Are you willing or not? Yes. Shen King nodded, a little innocent and aggrieved. Then come here now and see what you want to eat. Zhou Qian smiled and turned on his mobile phone. Shen King sat down beside him. When he took the mobile phone, he glanced at him and opened his mouth. What about you? I eat everything and order whatever I want. Zhou Qian smiled. Shen King looked at him a little more seriously. I mean, what about the wife in your heart? What should I do? In this way, I am satisfied with you. Zhou Qian shrugged slightly, as if he said this lightly. Shen King looked at him and shook his head quickly. I'm not dissatisfied with you. I know. Zhou Qian nodded, and then tried to open his mouth. Is that? Can't let Sixun go. No. Shen King shook his head. That's right. I don't think we know each other. I don't know what you think. Haha. Zhou Qian laughed out loud and raised his hand and patted her on the head with a little dot. He guessed if he didn't know. You don't know how to ask. In the future, ask me directly. Zhou Qian opened his mouth, paused for 2 seconds and continued to speak. I will also ask you directly. Okay? Shen King nodded solemnly. So, do you like the gift I gave you? Zhou Qian is honest. He just agreed to ask frankly and directly, which is a real question. Like? Shen King nodded, met Zhou Qian's eyes, and bit his lip again, smiling a little awkwardly. In fact, he couldn't say whether he liked it or not. I glanced at it and didn't see what color it was at all. After saying this, Shen King looked at him nervously. Zhou Qian smiled and seemed to be quite satisfied with her frankness. Can you put on that lipstick when you meet me next time? Zhou Qian opened his mouth. Shen King found that Zhou Qian could really ask any questions without any burden. Okay, but Shen King really has no reason to refuse. She nodded. Okay, let's eat something. Zhou Qian's smile was a little stronger. Shen King made the master and ordered a few dishes. During the waiting for the takeaway, Zhou Qian went to the balcony and called his father. Shen King looked at his bag on the balcony through the glass. Zhou Qian is wearing sporty clothes at this moment, which should be the clothes he wore for a long time. No wonder he chose to wear a bathrobe. Thinking of this, Shen King's heart jumped unconsciously again. She found that at the previous moment, she was not unwilling, but nervous and at a loss. She didn't know how to have a second time with Zhou Qian. Or to put it bluntly, she didn't know whether she and Zhou Qian would be in bed like that night or different. She didn't know what the experience of Zhou Qian was like that night, but in her heart, she was a little embarrassed after all. People I've never seen are flirting in front of him. Zhou Qian quickly hung up the phone and went back to the living room. Do you want to watch TV? When Zhou Qian sat down, he asked this question, which was like asking a boring child if he wanted to watch cartoons. No, Shen King shook his head. Although it was indeed a little boring at the moment, he didn't want to watch TV. Shen King looked at Zhou Qian, cowed lightly, and then said, I can't cook. Well, Zhou Qian nodded, with some surprise. Shen King took the initiative to communicate with him. After graduation, my father originally wanted me to go to work in the company, but I didn't like it, so I didn't go. I originally planned to open a coffee shop, but later our company had its own problems, so we couldn't do it for the time being. I didn't think you were ideal. Zhou Qian smiled and understood what she was worried about. For fear that he would misunderstand her, Miss Shen can't turn it around, but Mrs. Zhou can. If you want to open it after marriage, I will support you. Hearing Zhou Qian say this, Shen King took a deep breath and became more serious. She faced Zhou Qian, looked at him, and opened her mouth. In fact, I think you have suffered a financial loss. After we get married, I don't think I should. Are you cheating on marriage? Zhou Qian interrupted her and asked. Shen King looked at him and didn't dare to speak anymore. If you get a certificate from me, pretend to play for a few days, and then divorce me, it will indeed be a loss. But if you really want to live with me, there will be nothing to lose. Zhou Qian looked at her, and his eyebrows were a little more serious. Shen King, to put it well, the husband and wife share honor and disgrace. To put it a little, you marry someone else, or I marry someone else, are actually the same. It's all the same thing. There is something involved between the two families, and the interests are the same in the future. Therefore, you didn't buy yourself for me, so you don't have to be too serious. Shen King looked at him and said nothing. Zhou Qian's words were not good, but it was reasonable. Isn't this what a business marriage is like? 10,000 steps back. Even if Zhou Zixuan not to get married, will they just talk about love? It's the same. He doesn't like her, but his future interests are one. The atmosphere seemed to suddenly fall into silence. Shen King actually knew that as long as he was safe and protected himself, they could indeed live for a long time with such thoughtful education and personality as Zhou Qian, but he always felt a little sad in his heart. Zhou Qian's phone rang. He looked down and got up. I went to get the takeaway. Shen King nodded and continued to sit numbly. Zhou Qian quickly came in with the takeaway and went straight to the direction of the table. After putting the things down, he glanced at Shen King's direction, and his tone was much softer. Come over for dinner. Shen King took a deep breath, and then got up. She walked to the table, and then stood in front of the table to watch Zhou Qian. We are all sincere now, but will you worry that one day you will meet us? Oh, me and you really like. Shen King's heart is sad that this marriage is indeed different from what she imagined when she was a child. If there is decent and responsibility in marriage, you can live for a long time. But if there is no love in marriage, it is also tormenting. She knows that she can't ask for anything in her current situation, and it is a luxury to marry love. But what about Zhou Qian? What if he meets him in the future? Zhou Qian paused and looked at her with deep eyes. Shenqi, marriage is loyalty. Getting married means not making other choices, which is eternal loyalty. Chapter 34 The Taste of the Past. It was very late when Zhou Qian sent Shen King home. When the car stopped, through the window, Zhou Qian seemed to vaguely see someone coming out of the room. Zhou Qian was very interesting and quickly unfastened his seatbelt. Shen King moved faster and had pushed the car door out of the car. Brother, haven't you slept yet? Shen King got out of the car and faced Shen Haoji, who was coming towards them. As soon as I came back from work, Shen Haoji said in an understatement. Overtime has become common during this period. When Shen Haoji spoke, his eyes turned slightly and he had already looked at Zhou Qian, who got out of the car. Mr. Zhou, Shen Haoji stretched out his hand to him with a smile, which was very decent, but there was still unconscious guard and faint imperceptible resistance in his eyes. Zhou's stepbrother, Zhou Qian smiled and he also stretched out his hand to him. The moment his palm touched, Zhou Qian smiled, glanced at Shen King, and then said, I'm sorry, I came back late with he for dinner together today. Zhou Qian is still very sensitive and can understand Shen Haoji's silent dissatisfaction. Nothing happened. Shen Zhou smiled, withdrew his hand, and glanced at Shen King. Let's go home first. I'll have a chat with Mr. Zhou. Oh, Shen King pursed his lips and nodded. When he raised his feet and left first, he looked back a few times. Zhou Qian smiled and tilted his head slightly and waved at her as if nothing had happened. Looking at Shen King's figure disappearing, Shen Haoji smiled again. I thought about it for a while and felt that I should say thank you to Mr. Zhou in person. Shen Haoji touched his pocket and took out a box of cigarettes. Before he handed it over, Zhou Qian had already waved his hand. I don't smoke. Haha, it's a good habit. I smoke when I work overtime. Shen Haoji took a cigarette and put it in the corner of his mouth to light the previous topic. Mr. Zhou's funds were very timely, which saved me a lot of trouble. You're welcome. It's all his own people. Zhou Qian smiled and continued for 2 seconds. Moreover, he has already thanked him. When Zhou Qian said this, he could see that the smoke at the corners of Shen Haoji's mouth was a little brighter. He was sucking fiercely, and there were emotional ups and downs under his face. Zhou Qian actually knows Shen Haoji's dissatisfaction with him. His peers think they know about men, and the old cow eats young grass. Not to mention that this young grass is his own sister. Shen Haoji is a very complicated person. His upbringing makes him have to thank him and accept her sister is marriage. Moreover, the current economic problems do not allow him to have too much emotional opposition, but in his heart, he's still disdainful, but powerless. If it was Zixuan, he would be okay, because he knew that Shen King had been careful. He knew that it was not a complete commercial marriage. She had a liking in it, but Zhou Qian, who suddenly came back, was completely a sacrifice for Shen King. My sister has been spoiled since she was a child, and in the future, she hoped that Mr. Zhou would be more tolerant. Shen Haoji looked at him, smiled, and then took the cigarette from the corners of his mouth. She is not spoiled. I think she is very good and sensible. Zhou Qian smiled, raised his hand, and put his elbows lightly on the car, as if he was a kind of patience, and as if he had lost patience. That's good. Then Mr. Zhou should go back to rest earlier. When Shen Haoji said this, he looked down at the time. Well, Zhou Qian was not polite to him and turned around and got into the car. Shen Haoji watched Zhou Qian's car leave before returning home. When he got home, Shen Qing was already sitting on the sofa, with a small bowl in his hand, and it was still steaming. What do you want to drink? Shen Haoji walked over and asked when he sat next to her. Shen Qing took a deep breath, sat lazily on the sofa, made cereal, and didn't eat enough at night. Shen Haoji looked at her, took a deep look for a few seconds, then got up and went to the kitchen. Shall I get you something to eat? Is it not comfortable to eat with Zhou Qian? Before entering the kitchen, Shen Haoji asked like this, but it seemed that he didn't really wait for Shen Qing's answer. Of course, Shen Qing didn't answer. He just held the bowl and took a sip. Shen Qing drank half a bowl and heard the sound of a message. She put down the bowl and found Shen Haoji's mobile phone under the sofa pillow. She saw a strange number sending him a message. Shen Qing hesitated for a few seconds, got up, and then took his mobile phone into the kitchen. Brother, someone is looking for you. Shen Haoji wiped his hands, turned his head to look at her, and then took the mobile phone. When he looked down at the screen, his face sank a little. He didn't answer. He directly pressed the mobile phone back, and then put it in his pocket. Go out and wait for me. I'll bring you the noodles later. Don't you have to reply? Shen Qing looked at him. No, I'll just call back later. Shen Haoji smiled. Oh, Shen Qing nodded. She didn't ask much about Shen Haoji. Shen Qing just turned around and was about to leave. Shen Haoji suddenly stopped her. Don't come back so late in the future. What? Shen Qing turned his head and looked at him, puzzled. I said, don't come back so late when you go out with Zhou Qian in the future. Shen Haoji was more direct, silent for 2 seconds, and continued to go out with him less in the future. We are about to get married, and Shen Qing can't laugh or cry. It's not that it hasn't been concluded yet. Shen Haoji looked at her. Who knows what will happen in the future? Shen Qing was speechless, but didn't say anything. He just sighed and turned around and went out. Their family has collected all the money, and it's very boring to say such words. This is pure selfishness, and she also needs money and face. She doesn't think that now she has to pretend to be innocent. Shen Haoji soon left the kitchen and put the bowl of noodles on the coffee table. Come and have a taste. Thank you. Shen Qing sat down, but he was not polite. He broke the bowl, blew it, and tossed at it. After taking a bite, Shen Qing was stunned. This taste is very familiar. Long after a long time, this kind of familiarity made Shen Qing a little sad and wanted to cry. How about it? Does it taste the same as before? Shen Haoji sat down beside her. Shen Qing didn't say anything, just lowered his head and ate. The taste is exactly the same as what her mother cooked for her before. She really hasn't eaten such a taste for a long time. I learned from my mother for a while before, and I don't know if I really learned well. Shen Haoji said this. Shen Qing was well taken care of by his mother, and the little princess grew up in her hand. Seeing Shen Qing's silence, he said again, what my mother is most worried about is you. I'm afraid that you will be wronged and unhappy in the future. Indeed, before their mother left, it was her little daughter who was most uneasy. Chapter 35. People are different. Shen Qing went back to his room, took a shower and went to bed, but he didn't really fall asleep. After tossing and turning for a long time, she still got up again, then turned over the bag she had brought with her today, and found the small gift box given to her by Zhou Qian. She opened the gift box and looked at the delicate lipstick inside. After hesitating, she sat in front of the dressing table and tried the color. The touch of lipstick was applied. She looked at herself in the mirror. Somehow, she suddenly remembered the kiss with Zhou Qian today. This color is still very suitable for her, and she really picked up the tissue and tried to wipe it gently to know if it really didn't fade as Zhou Qian said. When the mobile phone message rings, she jumped a little, got up and went back to the bedside to take her mobile phone. When she clicked it, there was a flash of loss. She felt that it was not because it was Zhou Qian who sent the message, but because she was frustrated because her guess was wrong. The message was sent by her classmates and friends. Some time ago, several friends said they were going on a trip. She was going to go with her, but later there was a problem at home, so she was not in the mood to go. Although she can't help even if she is not at home, she can't go out with peace of mind. Her friend sent her a lot of photos of them playing outside, and asked her if she regretted not following her. At that time, she didn't talk to her friend too much about her family. She just said lazily that she didn't like to go out and run around. My friend also sent her the time of their return flight, saying that she had bought a lot of things, asked her to pick them up, and then have dinner together. Shen Qing agreed very bluntly. It was no longer interesting if he didn't accompany them to play together. He would definitely pick them up. Shen Qing got up early the next day. Shen Haoji was surprised when he saw her leave the room. You, so early? Well, when he woke up, Shen Qing nodded, looked around and said again, "Where's Dad? I made an appointment with Uncle Ma to go fishing and set off very early," Shen Haoji said naturally, and then smiled. "Did you get up or just come out for a walk? Do you want to have breakfast?" "Don't eat." Shen King shook his head. Shen Haoji was almost finished. She didn't need to eat anymore. She walked to the table, then pulled a chair and sat down opposite Shen Haoji. She held the table with her hand on the table and looked at him with a smile. "Brother, when will you go out? Where are you going?" "I'm not in a hurry. I can see you off." Shen Haoji looked at her and smiled. "You don't need to send it. I want to borrow your car for a day." Shen Haoji looked at her with a serious expression, as if he was considering the result of her words. After a few seconds, he opened his mouth. "Do you open? What do you mean by this expression?" "Did I have a good time when I took the driver's license exam? I used to go out with my friends, and they drank too much. It was all my okay." Shen King's words are true. She hasn't opened it for a while, and her hands are worn. She plans to practice for a while today and then pick it up. So she got up so early. She can do a lot of things well. At least her friends are at ease with her. But in front of her family, especially her father and brother, she doesn't know why she automatically becomes a child who can't carry her hands and shoulders. It's not that she really can't do it, but that the family subconsciously thinks she can't do it, and they don't want to let her do it. "I'll go out later. You take me to the company and then drive away." Shen Haoji looked at Shen King's face when he said this. Shen King opened his mouth like this. It was difficult for him to say anything, but he had to ask Shen King to send her off and experience her driving skills in person. "Okay." Shen King nodded. Shen Haoji sat in the co-pilot of the car together. After the car started, Shen Haoji's voice never stopped. He subconsciously chattered. He turned the corner in front of him and turned on the turn signal. There was a car in front of him to keep a distance. Wait for the red light in front of him. Shen King didn't say these things, and Shen King could know by himself. But Shen Haoji's chattering voice distracted her. Shen King finally parked the car on the side of the road, and then turned to look at him. "Brother, it's not dangerous for me to drive, but it's dangerous for you to talk." Shen King drove okay, but he didn't sleep enough to talk while driving. Shen Haoji looked at her and sighed lightly. He stopped talking. Finally, he opened his mouth. "In this way, I will say something. It may not be very good, but you remember that it's just that the front is not a big truck. I'd rather hit it. You know." Shen King looked at him. The four eyes are facing each other. Shen Haoji is very direct and selfish. "Your speed really crashes forward directly. There is no big problem. What do you hit? Don't be a hero on the road, you know." Shen Haoji's words were very selfish, but he was also very serious. He reached out and touched Shen King's head, looked at her sideways, and waited for her to nod. "Many times, human nature is evil by nature. You have compassion, but it is more beneficial to you. In other words, what really happened? It's true that you sympathize with others, but it's also true that you're not lucky enough not to be around you." Shen King. He looked at him. She didn't think she could really cause a big disaster, but when it came to this, she still couldn't help asking, what if there were people in front of her? Shen Haoji didn't say anything, withdrew his hand, was silent for a few seconds, and then opened his mouth. "If you want to make such an assumption, I can answer. I don't ask you to do anything about your question. I don't want to influence you with my worldliness. But if you are by my side and what's really wrong with me driving, I probably won't want to turn the tide. Because as a result of failure, you will die. I don't agree, but I understand." Shen King took a deep breath, nodded leisurely, looked at Shen Haoji for a few seconds, and smiled again. "Don't worry, I'm still driving well, and I will be very careful." Shen King doesn't agree with it, but it's also difficult to refute. It can only be said that many things have different ideas and choices. Her mother is a very soft-hearted person. She will cry when she sees stray cats and dogs on the news. But her father is different from her brother. They are more realistic. They walk in the mall. Perhaps for them, it is the world of wolves, and the kind-hearted sheep will be eaten first. "I'm not questioning you. I'm telling you how important you are to me." Shen Haoji met her eyes and said this. Shen King lowered his eyes and took a while to speak. "Dad, don't you always believe that love is what you should understand in action, and you don't need to express it in words? Why did you come to me and start to express it?" In this respect, Shen Haoji is not like his father. Shen Haoji looked at her, said nothing, and smiled. In order not to regret it, their mother didn't listen to their father's love until she died. He doesn't want such regrets to continue. Chapter 36 Encounter. Shen King drove the car on the street all morning and went to the airport when he was familiar with the car. Shen King didn't bother to wait there all one. He hid in the car and sent a message directly to Qingqing, asking her to call her when she arrived. She was waiting in the parking lot. Anyway, they will turn on the power as soon as they get off the plane, so she doesn't worry about missing it. She didn't do much in the car. She clicked on a skit and didn't finish it, and the phone rang. Hello, are you there? As soon as the phone rang, Shen King picked it up as soon as possible, and his tone was very light. It's a pity that you didn't go you came out. Qing Qing was excited as soon as she opened her mouth. She had a good time this time. It's a pity that Shen King didn't go with her. It can be seen that it's good that you have a good time. Shen King smiled, and the crisp sound of playing over there could already be heard through the phone. How about it? Do you want me to pick you up? Shen King asked. No, we'll go to the parking lot to find it ourselves. Qing Qing replied with a smile. Shen King answered, hung up the phone, got out of the car, and waited by the car. I haven't seen anyone yet, but I have heard the sound and the sound of the suitcase being pushed. My friends seem to be very happy. Here, Shen King walked in the direction of the voice, and several people appeared. They looked tired, but they couldn't hide their excitement. There were a few people in the parking lot, but they were pushing suitcases, and they seemed to be on the catwalk. In fact, this is also a girl's fun. 小弟 he, 大写 W. Several people saw her. They also walked with a smile. Shen King helped them put the suitcase in the trunk. Fortunately, her brother's car was big enough, and 4 suitcases were stuffed into the trunk. Did your luggage be so heavy when you went there? When Shen King covered the trunk, he raised his eyes and asked incredulously that the boxes were heavier than each other. It was light when we went there. We bought it while playing. We bought the suitcase and came back. Tang Ran responded to her with a smile, and then pulled the car door. The sisters had already got in. When Shen King got into the driver's seat, he glanced at Qing Qing, the co-pilot, and then looked back. Tang Ran and the other 2 had collapsed on the seat. It seems that I have finally found a place to cover at will, and I don't have to hold on to such a shining one anymore. How about it? I'm fine. I'll accompany you in front of you. When Shen King fastened his seatbelt, Qing Qing said this with a smile. Do you think there is no seat in the back? Shen King smiled. The 3 behind him twisted and twisted. When he got into the car, he was completely unrestrained. Haha, you still understand me? Qing Qing smiled and quickly fastened her seatbelt. The car started quickly, and the 3 people at the back door were already asleep. Qing Qing looked back several times, and then looked at Shen King again, as if she wanted to say anything but stopped. Shen King slowed down a little, and turned his head to look at her, quite helpless. Say it, don't choke you. She knows Qing Qing very well and knows that she has something to say now. Of course, Qing Qing also understands her and knows that no one can talk to her when she is driving. They were so beautiful just now. Now they are sleeping like something. Qing Qing shook her head and laughed. Just like the catwalk just now. Now it doesn't care about the image at all. Little fairies are also tired sometimes. Shen King smiled and asked, again, do you want to send them back to put their luggage directly? The luggage needs to be put down, but the food also needs to be eaten, and the fun also needs to be played. Qing Qing smiled. She has been away for so long. She has to accompany us tonight without getting drunk. I'd better be your driver. Shen King smiled. Qing Qing looked at her seriously and hesitated for a few seconds before she opened her mouth again. You don't need to drive the car. I mainly want to drink with you. King King too. K a deep breath and opened her mouth again. This time, her tone was a little lower. Do you know what it means that good things don't go out and bad things spread thousands of miles? Hearing Qing Qing say this, Shen King sighed. What do you know? Everyone knows that there were so many people in the box that night, and I don't know where it has spread. Qing Qing said that she was rejected by Zhou Zixuan that night. There were indeed many people in the private room that day, and even Qing Qing was far away from home knew about it. If you know, you will know. It's not a big deal. Shen King shrinked his mouth. She and Zhou Zixuan boasted that many people knew about this matter, but few people knew about it because she and Zhou Quian had a good deal. Are you really alright? Qing Qing doesn't believe it. It's really okay. Shen King shook his head, and then continued to speak. However, I can't drink with you for nothing else. It's just to welcome you back. Okay, just have fun. It doesn't matter what you want to play. Shen King nodded, said nothing more, and focused on driving. She sent them to them one by one according to the distance of their families, and then made an appointment for the time and place to eat, and asked them to clean up and go there. Finally, we went to Qing Qing's house. Shen King followed her home, waited for her to take a hot bath, and then went to the place to eat together. After the 2 of them arrived, the other 3 elves all arrived one after another. After dinner, Shen King took him to the bar. Shen King didn't spoil their interest. When they arrived at the bar, it was a lively time. There were a lot of people and the music was very loud. Several people found a seat in the hall, and then called a lot of wine. Several people drank and chatted together. Although the laughter was loud, it was like a kind of whisper against the background of the music in the bar. Hey, Shen King was holding a wine glass in his hand and had drunk a lot. At this moment, he suddenly felt that his shoulder was touched by Qing Qing beside him. What's the matter? Shen King turned his head to look at her, and his eyes were quite puzzled. Qing Qing didn't say anything. She raised her eyebrows slightly and looked not far behind her. Shen King turned his head and followed her gaze to look over. Unexpectedly, he saw Zhou Qian sitting at the table not far away. It seemed to be a partner beside him. He didn't know what he was talking about. They were talking happily. So handsome. I don't know when. The others have also come over and look in that direction. Do you think it's possible for me to get a contact number if I go there? Qing Qing turned her head to look at the other people and asked with interest. Go. If you don't go, I'll go. Tang Ran also encouraged him. What do you think? Shen King was suddenly asked. Shen King frowned and didn't know what to say for a moment. Coincidentally, Zhou Qian suddenly turned his head, looked at them, and saw Shen King. Chapter 37 Self-Chosen. Facing the gaze of the last banquet, Shen King subconsciously swallowed his saliva and felt that he was restable for an instant. Zhou Qian seemed to be quite calm. When he withdrew his gaze, there seemed to be a sense of waiting in his eyes. Maybe she really asked her to wait a moment, because Zhou Qian, who withdrew his eyes, raised the smell of wine in his hand and raised it to the person sitting at the table. With him. After drinking, he leaned over and said something in the other's ear. The other party simply finished the wine, and then got up very dashingly. It does mean the end. Shen King actually felt that unconsciously. She seemed to know a little about Zhou Qian, and she could guess his next step from his eyes and expression. Zhou Qian also got up, personally sent the person to the door, and then returned again. This time, he came directly in their direction. He really came. When Zhou Qian came over, Shen King could feel his friends around him get up, and he also pulled her up in the push. They seemed to be still immersed and entangled in who to ask for contact information. In this situation, Shen King was also embarrassed to say that this man was hers. She didn't have time to say that her fiance had changed. Zhou Qian looked around at the people opposite, and finally his eyes fell on Shen King's face. When will you finish? Zhou Qian opened his mouth first, and his tone was calm and soft. In Zhou Qian's eyes, and also in the puzzled eyes of his sister, Shen King took a few steps forward, stood in front of Zhou Qian, and then said awkwardly and reservedly, "They are my friends, and we have just come here." Shen King lowered his eyes when he spoke. He didn't know whether to look at Zhou Qian or the surprised expressions of his friends first. "Then you continue to play?" Zhou Qian seemed to ask casually. He didn't mean to interfere. He hesitated for 2 seconds and continued to open his mouth. "Do you need me to wait for you?" As soon as Zhou Qian's words came out, there was no doubt that he would be close and estranged. The friends looked at each other, and then looked at Shen King, waiting for her introduction. They must know each other and be very familiar. Shen King swallowed his saliva, a little entangled in what words and identity to introduce, and a voice had already come. "Uncle, Zhou Zixuan's voice broke Shen King's entanglement. Zhou Qian turned his head and saw that Zhou Zixuan had come towards them. "Uncle, I drove here. Are you going back now?" Zhou Zixuan walked to Zhou Qian and looked quite obedient. He turned his eyes to look at Shen King's friend, and finally his eyes fell on Shen King. Shen King's friend has been familiar to him these days. He used to follow Shen King together, and he often encouraged her to run after him. Shen King nodded and said, "Hello." There were many puzzled friends behind him. It was not easy to ask anything in person, and he was just silent. Zhou Qian glanced at Zhou Zixuan and then at Shen King. He said in a light voice, "I'll wait for you. Don't be in a hurry. Have fun with your friends. I've finished my work, and I won't rush the time later." After Zhou Qian finished speaking, he deliberately took a step forward, then reached out and hugged Shen King's waist, pulling her a little closer to him. When he opened his mouth again, his tone softened a little. He was really not in a hurry and had a good time with his friends. Zhou Qian gently hugged her, then turned his eyes to her friend and smiled. There was no need to let Shen King introduce him. He said by himself, "I'm Zixuan's uncle, his fiance. I'm in a hurry today. I will definitely treat you to a meal next time." After Zhou Qian finished speaking, he let go of Shen King, then turned around, waved his hand and asked Zhou Zixuan to go together. Looking at the two people leaving, Shen King withdrew his gaze. He could see that everyone was looking at her at this moment. "What's the situation, Shen King?" Qing Qing gently pulled Shen King's arm. Shen King squeezed his lips, sighed softly, and opened his mouth. "It's what you see. Zhou Zixuan has nothing to do with me. I'm with his uncle now." After a few seconds, Shen King said that we were preparing for the marriage. I originally wanted to tell you when the date was set. Here, several people were surprised. Shen King bit his lip and finally picked up the whole bottle of wine by himself. It's my fault. It's so important that I should have told you early. It's my fault. I punish myself. After saying that, Shen King raised her head directly and drank. She was afraid that her friends would ask more, so she quickly blocked it with wine. After Zhou Qian left the bar, he got into the car. Zhou Zixuan also got into the car. He was not in a hurry to start the car. After he got into the driver's seat, he turned his head back to look at Zhou Qian and said lazily, "Uncle, are you really not going back first? Are you going to wait for Shen King outside? If you have something to do, go first. It's the same if I call a substitute driver." Zhou Qian leaned against the back seat, closed his eyes slightly, and his tone was lazy. "I'm fine." Zhou Zixuan squealed his mouth and looked at Zhou Qian with some gossip. "Uncle, how much did you drink?" "Not much." Zhou Qian opened his eyes and looked at him. "I can smell alcohol here. Isn't it much?" Zhou Zixuan laughed, and then turned over in the car. There was no cigarette. "I don't smoke." "Zhou Qian, don't open your face. You don't smoke? But drinking is also harmful." Zhou Zixuan was a little speechless. "It is necessary for me to have a drink, either to reach cooperation or to make partners closer. Which is necessary, unlike you." Zhou Qian opened his eyes and laughed. "What are you drinking for? Have fun with your friends. It's hard to drink too much. What can you get when you wake up? By what you said, isn't it a game to have friends?" Zhou Zixuan smiled. "Well, one day you will not be Master Zhou, and you will know whether your friends play with you really because you can drink." "Uncle, it's boring for you to do this. Why do you always pretend to be an elder? Besides, you are so realistic that you have to quantify the friendship between everyone and people." "Do I? I'll have to see whether it's worth it or not to play with friends." "Okay, I'm not realistic, so I'll just say it. We don't interfere with each other." Zhou Qi smiled. Zhou Zixuan was bored and wanted to have a debate with Zhou Qian. After a few seconds of silence, Zhou Zixuan opened his mouth again and gossiped a little more. "Uncle, I heard from my father that Shen King was chosen by yourself to be the daughter-in-law of the Zhou family." When Zhou Qian heard the words, he looked up at him. After looking at each other for several seconds, Zhou Qian hummed and smiled again. "Knowing that I chose it myself, you still have to resist. Did you deliberately not get along with me?" Chapter 38. Are you okay? When Shen King went out to the bar with his friends, he drank a lot, but he still saw the car at a glance. Friends can naturally see it, and they also know the fun. They gently pulled her arm, and then leaned into her ear and said, "If you have something to do, go first, and we can take a taxi back." After Qin Qing said what he said, he pulled others to leave first. Shen King took a deep breath, tried to make himself stand more firmly and a little more sober, and then raised his feet to the direction of the car. "I thought you were going to play until midnight." Zhou Zixuan got out of the car and opened the door behind her with a smile. He vaguely remembered that her friends were very good at drinking and playing. "Thank you." Shen King did not respond to his words, but responded to his actions and opened his mouth to Zhou Zixuan when he sat in. Zhou Zixuan smiled and looked unrestrained. Then he closed the car door directly and went back to the driver's seat. When Shen King sat in, Zhou Qian was leaning against the seat with his eyes closed, and he didn't know if he was asleep. Shen King didn't dare to make a sound to him. In addition, she also drank wine herself and was drowsy, so she simply leaned against him. The car started quickly, though. "So friends of yours seem to haven't seen each other for a while." Zhou Zixuan opened his mouth, raised his eyes slightly while talking, and glanced at the car mirror. This was obviously said to Shen King. Zhou Zixuan still looks like it's none of his business. It seems that in his opinion, he didn't feel sorry for Shen King at all. Instead, he did a good thing and became a matchmaker, as if Shen King had a better future because of his lack of coal. As soon as they came back from the trip, Shen King still answered, but the voice was very low. When answering, he also secretly glanced at Zhou Qian. "I don't know if he would wake him up. I'm ready to wait for you until midnight. I didn't expect to come out so early." Shen King frowned slightly and smiled, but replied yes. She didn't know why Zhou Zixuan was so energetic to chat in the middle of the night, but she didn't have a particular desire to chat. They went on a trip. "Why don't you shut up?" Before Zhou Zixuan finished speaking, Zhou Qian's voice had already sounded. Shen King turned his eyes to look at him and didn't see him open his eyes, but she felt that her hand was held. Zhou Qian closed his eyes but held her hand accurately. "Drive well, or you will get out of the car and leave." Zhou Qian still didn't open his eyes, but added this sentence, "Oh, I'm not afraid that she will be bored." Zhou Zixuan was quite dissatisfied and muttered, but he still knew the fun and shut up. Shen King turned his head to look at Zhou Qian. Zhou Qian's lips moved. This time, he said it to her. If you drink too much, you can rely on it. When you arrive, he will call. Well, Shen King nodded and closed his eyes. At this moment, not talking is the best choice. Although Shen King closed her eyes and leaned against her, in fact, she was not sleepy at all. On the contrary, she was getting more and more sober. She could clearly feel the touch of Zhou Qian's hand surrounding her palm. Zhou Qian's palms are very warm, and even there is a feeling of beating in the palm of his hand. After a while, the car stopped. When Zhou Zixuan unfastened his seatbelt and turned his head, Shen King opened his eyes. Humph! With his drinking volume, he taught me a lesson just now. Zhou Zixuan looked at Shen King and then at Zhou Qian. Do you think he fell asleep? I'm going to use the car tomorrow. I got out of the car by myself and took a taxi outside. Zhou Qian slowly opened his eyes, looked at him, and said this. At the end, he added a few words. Get out of the car, now. Zhou Qian, you also have it. It's time to cross the river and demolish the bridge. I left all my friends and insisted on driving for you without drinking. Are you treating me like this? Zhou Zixuan is dissatisfied. Zhou Qian sighed and ignored it. He directly pushed open the car door and got out of the car. Shen King also got out of the car quickly. She looked around and found that they were downstairs of Zhou Qian's house. Zhou Qian came to her, then took her hand and pulled her upstairs. Zhou Qian pulled her quite hard. He didn't say anything. When he entered the door, he didn't have time to turn on the light. He leaned against the wall of the door first, didn't move, and didn't let go. Shen King realized later that Zhou Qian might be seriously drunk today. After leaning for half a minute, he took a deep breath, let go of Shen King, and turned on the light. By the way, Shen King narrowed his eyes slightly and adapted to the brightness. When he looked at Zhou Qian again, he had already raised his feet as if nothing had happened. Looking at the direction he was going, it seemed that he was going to pour water. Shen King looked at his back and didn't know whether to follow him or not. He hesitated for a few seconds and sat down on the sofa. Zhou Qian quickly brought a glass of water, then sat down beside Shen King and handed her the water. Thank you. Are you alright? 大姐 S. Shen King took it over and asked this question with no ease. It's okay. Today's drinking is a little strong, but Zhou Qian is very honest. Then do you want to drink water? Shen King moved his buttocks, got a little closer to him, and then handed the water back to him. No. Zhou Qian smiled and shook his head. Shen King really can't see through him. He doesn't know whether he is drunk or not. Entangled, she still listened to Zhou Qian. She drank the water by herself. When she put the cup on the coffee table, she found that Zhou Qian's eyes were looking at her, a very subtle look, as if there was no inquiry, and it was just a pure look. Shen King looked at him. When they looked at each other, she found that Zhou Qian had no intention of withdrawing his eyes at all. He still looked at her with the same eyes, which was actually a bit like the numb and dull eyes when he drank too much. Shen King lowered his eyes and withdrew his eyes. She bit her lip and I spurred. Are you okay? It's okay. Zhou Qian shook his head, as if he was holding on and woke up a little. I was just looking at your red mouth. Oh, I brought it in the back. I didn't expect to meet you today. Shen King realized in hindsight and raised his hand to touch his lips. He remembered what Zhou Qian said last time, that he hoped she would apply the lipstick he gave her next time we met. Shen King quickly rummaged through the bag and really took out the lipstick. Shen King held the lipstick and watched Zhou Qian. Zhou Qian's eyes fell into numb confusion again, and he looked at her motionless. Well, do you want to have a look? Shen King spoke stubbornly. She thought that with Zhou Qian's personality, she would say it was okay and talk about it next time, but Zhou Qian seemed to have really drunk a little too much today, so she didn't care about the so-called upbringing. Well, I don't know if the clerk lied to me. Zhou Qian actually nodded. His eyes were a little confused, but mixed with some darkness. Chapter 39. Not enough. She took out a small mirror from her bag and really put on lipstick in front of Zhou Qian, which still made her heart unconsciously tighten a little. And at this moment, Zhou Qian did not avoid it, but directly watched her complete the whole process. Shen King didn't know what Zhou Qian was looking at, and maybe his brain was numb and his whole body was slow to move, so he didn't show his literacy in time. In fact, Shen King could see Zhou Qian's eyes as long as she raised her eyes slightly, but that's why she didn't dare to raise her eyes. The process of applying lipstick suddenly seems to be extremely long, but it will eventually end. Shen King closed the mirror, raised his eyes and looked at Zhou Qian carefully. How about it? Does this color suit me? Suitable? Zhou Qian nodded, then went straight over and kissed her lips. It was not a light taste, and the kiss was quite hard. Zhou Qian's strong smell of wine instantly spread clearly in Shen King's mouth. Shen King didn't move and held the lipstick that didn't even have time to put it back. Zhou Qian kissed for a few seconds, and then realized that he seemed to remember something. He stepped back a little, but looking at Shen King's eyes, he was still confused and half drunk. "Can I kiss you?" Zhou Qian seemed to pull back a little more reason, thinking of a gentleman, thinking of treating each other frankly and asking directly. Shen Qing's lips moved, looked at Zhou Qian carefully, raised the lipstick in his hand a little, pointed to the finger back, and signaled to put it back first. Zhou Qian didn't say anything, just looked at her. Shen Qing was under a lot of psychological pressure under his gaze. She turned around slightly and put her lipstick back in her bag. When she closed the bag, she took a deep breath. When she turned her head, Zhou Qian came over again. However, she did not kiss her, but just held her face, stroked the corners of her lips with her fingertips, and pressed her lower lip. Shen Qing looked up at Zhou Qian. Zhou Qian's eyes were very strange at this moment, but it seemed to be familiar. Zhou Qian seemed to be the same that night, silent and hidden storms, like a merciless hunter. The four eyes were facing each other. At this moment, Zhou Qian's face was a little foul. Shen Qing was a little curious and looking forward to seeing him tear off the mask behind his elegance again. The warmth of Zhou Qian's fingers was obvious. Shen Qing lowered his eyes and slowly closed his eyes. Shen Qing closed his eyes and could feel the approach of Zhou Qian's breath. "Can I have you?" Zhou Qian's low voice sounded on her lips, and the heavy breath was not like an inquiry, but like a kind reminder before the storm. Shen Qing didn't say anything. He swallowed his saliva, looked for the breath of Zhou Qian, and then put it on his lips. Adults, not to mention future couples. It seems to be nothing. What's more, not only Zhou Qian drank wine, but also Shen Qing drank a lot. The breath under the alcohol is entangled, and it is easy to have problems. Zhou Qian hugged her tightly, kissed her deeply, and then picked her up directly and went to the direction of the room. Shen Qing is mentally prepared. At some point, Zhou Qian, especially after drinking, will be very different from his usual life. However, Zhou Qian's endlessness still makes Shen Qing a little scared. Zhou Qian is like a bad wolf. After a full meal, he refuses to let go of his food. Shen Qing's heart hurts a little, which is caused by the different steps of the heartbeat and breathing rhythm. Zhou Qian's breath was in her ear, so she didn't dare to breathe too much at this moment. She inhaled carefully. She was afraid that her breathing was too heavy, and it emitted movement and fragrance, which made the wolf couldn't help but want to continue to eat again. The madness before Zhou Qian, the madness, as Shen Qing wished, really tore the elegance apart. But it was also true that his heart was still trembling. The two of them were lying on the bed together. Zhou Qian hugged her from behind, and the breath she exhaled had been lingering on her earlobe. The two of them were also very close. She could feel that Zhou Qian was sticking to her body temperature under the quilt, which was the real body temperature, not even between any clothes. Shen Qing carefully adjusted her breathing. Zhou Qian didn't say anything, and she didn't dare. It was not easy to open her mouth first. She hasn't completely eased the palpitations just now. "Should I be honest with you and tell you my thoughts and feelings?" Shen Qing waited for at least a minute or two before Zhou Qian's voice sounded in her ear. I don't know if it was the breath that passed by when she spoke that made Shen Qing feel numb, or Zhou Qian really kissed her ear while opening her mouth. What? Shen Qing tried to suppress his breath, but when he opened his mouth, he still unconsciously said that his breath was very heavy. "No, enough," for Zhou Qian just said two words. Shen Qing felt that a string in his heart was broken in an instant, and the strength of the rebound made her heart tremble. Shen Qing didn't say anything, but he could feel the heat of Zhou Qian's palm, and he had begun to wonder restlessly. The ringing of the mobile phone simply saved her life. She could feel that Zhou Qian's palm seemed to pause, and then left her, and then the warmth around her also left. Zhou Qian sat up straight and helped her take the phone. When Zhou Qian sat up, Shen Qing also turned over carefully. Looking up, he could only see Zhou Qian's strong chest, and the quilt that was brought up when he bent down to get his mobile phone. The moment the quilt was taken up, a little cool wind got into the quilt. She looked down and could see the kiss marks on her body and Zhou Quian's body. "Do you want to pick it up?" Zhou Quian's voice broke her absent-mindedness. She quickly pulled the quilt, then covered her chest, covered it and sat up. Zhou Qian had already handed his mobile phone to her, but his eyes fell more on the kiss marks on her shoulder. Shen Qing didn't dare to look him in the eye, but quickly took the mobile phone and glanced at the screen. It was her brother who called. Shen Qing took a deep breath, and then connected the phone. "Brother." Shen Qing's voice was as steady and calm as possible, and his tone was deliberately light, not wanting the person on the other end of the phone to hear anything. When will you come back?" Shen Haoji's voice sounded. Shen Qing subconsciously looked up at Zhou Qian. The two were so close at this moment that Zhou Qian should be able to hear Shen Haoji's words. Zhou Qian's eyebrows moved slightly, as if he wanted to talk. Shen King subconsciously raised one hand and covered at his mouth. Zhou Qian half smiled and didn't make a sound. He looked at Shen King with a smile. Then he directly held Shen King's hand covering his mouth, and then kissed her palm little by little. Chapter 40 Familiar and Strange. After Shen King hung up the phone, he looked down at Zhou Qian. Zhou Qian was completely engaged at this moment. He kissed her palm, emotional and kiss, which made her have an illusion that if she opened her mouth to interrupt him, it would become a sin. Feeling Shen King's gaze, Zhou Qian slowly raised his eyes. The four eyes were facing each other, and Zhou Qian's eyes seemed to be lazy and full of aggression. The corners of his lips seemed to smile, and then his lips left her palm little by little. Facing Zhou Qian's eyes, Shen King subconsciously swallowed his saliva and wanted to say something, but he was unable to say it for a moment. Did your brother urge you to go home? Although Zhou Qian's lips left Shen King's palm, the breath she exhaled when she spoke could still hit her palm, which made her unconsciously get goosebumps. Shen King nodded and couldn't help swallowing. At this moment, Zhou Qian's eyes made her confused. I don't know whether he wanted her to let her go or not. Then shall I go back? Shen King bit his lip and didn't have the courage to ask for a few seconds. Haha, Zhou Qian smiled, held her wrist, looked at her with burning eyes, and did not give an exact answer. Shen King felt the heat of his wrist. On the other hand, he put down his mobile phone, pulled the quilt to his chest a little more, and looked at Zhou Qian quietly. Your brother is very strict with you. Zhou Qian opened his mouth with a smile and looked down at Shen King's hand being held. I don't know if it was an illusion. Shen King felt that the palms of his wrist seemed to be lightly pressed by Zhou Qian's fingers. He was very strict. Shen King held his breath and smiled awkwardly. Well, Zhou Qian nodded leisurely and laughed along. Then you go back. Zhou Qian actually asked her back. Shen King lowered his eyes and didn't look at Zhou Qian's eyes. Although Zhou Qian seemed to be asking her if she could go back, Shen King didn't know why now. His mind was full of Zhou Qian's previous words, which was not enough. Zhou Qian's words seemed to have magic, and now they echoed in her ears again and again, and even his tone at that time was completely recalled. Okay, I'll take a shower and calm down. I'll send you back later. Zhou Qian smiled, let go of her hand, and then turned around and got out of bed. Zhou Qian couldn't see outside. When he got out of bed, he turned his back to Shen King. Shen King looked up and could see the fluent lines on his back. What is particularly conspicuous is that there is a red mark on the heel bone of his back, which was left by the nail, which she had just scratched. Well, seeing Zhou Qian lifting his feet away, Shen King suddenly edged out his hand and grabbed Zhou Qian's arm. Zhou Qian stopped, turned his head and looked down at her. Looking at each other, Shen King quickly turned his eyes away. His eyes were quite unnatural. How about I help you? Shen King's voice was very low, and she was embarrassed to raise her eyes after saying that, but she didn't hear Zhou Qian's response. She had to look up, but saw Zhou Qian looking at her with interest and smiling. Mrs. Zhou is so considerate. With his eyes on each other, Zhou Qian said this in a rare tone of a joke. Didn't you say? The two words not enough sounded in her mind countless times, but it was still embarrassing for her to say it out. But she also understood that it was really unkind to ignore Zhou Qian when she couldn't go up or down like this. Zhou Qian was kind to her, and her duty as a wife should be fulfilled to the extreme. Shen King didn't think about it and didn't dare to do it again, otherwise she might know he'd be able to go back tonight. But she was willing to find a faster way to make Zhou Qian as comfortable as possible. You are so considerate that I can't refuse your kindness. Zhou Qian smiled, and the strong desire was hidden under the smile. He raised his hand, held Shen King's hand holding his arm, and then approached little by little, forcing Shen King to lean back, then directly pressed her wrist and rolled back to bed. When Shen King felt his fingertips caressing Zhou Qian's skin, his breathing was not very smooth. Zhou Qian looked at her deeply. Obviously, it was himself who should have changed and reacted, but he looked at Shen King without blinking, trying to capture all the changes in her expression. Shen King was still a little embarrassed, but the words had been said, and the matter had reached this point, and she could not back down. Shen King closed her eyes slightly, and Zhou Qian's hand drove her. This feeling is very subtle. She and Zhou Qian are obviously very strange, but they always do something to intimate. Because she closed her eyes and didn't dare to look at Zhou Qian, her hearing became sharper, and she could even feel the change between Zhou Qian's breathing. Zhou Qian's breathing is actually very sexy. Shen King can imagine it without really looking at his face. Zhou Qian is really sexy when she is emotional. In the only two intimate contacts, She can clearly feel it. The dark tide that belongs to the West is surging, which is even more breathtaking. Zhou Qian gave her a lot of time and didn't waste a lot of time. Knowing that she was in a hurry to go home, she could simply take Shen Qing to take a shower for granted. When the two of them left home together, it was almost early morning. As soon as he got on the bus, Shen Haoji's phone call came again. It's much more natural for Shen Qing to answer the phone this time. Brother, I'm back. After drinking tonight, the car won't drive back for the time being. Dian, it's okay. I'll come back first, Shen Haoji said, and his tone was a little helpless. If you don't come back, I'm going to go out to pick you up. No, I'm on my way. When Shen Qing hung up the phone, he glanced at Zhou Qian and drove the car. Zhou Qian has changed back to his previous mature and elegant temperament. He drove the car without squinting, as if the previous breaths were fake. Maybe it's not fake, but men and women can often make a scene. There are some things that a man can't really be done by the woman who is true to the woman, and a woman may not have to leave precious things to someone who loves them madly. The world has become habitually false, and everyone lives like this. Are you still used to driving your brother's car? Zhou Qian suddenly opened his mouth and turned his eyes to look at her. It's okay. I don't often open it. Shen Qing smiled and looked at Zhou Qian's side face. I don't know why the familiarity and strangeness between them can be switched back and forth so easily. I still have a car. How about you drive it first? Zhou Qian opened his mouth in an understatement, which seemed to be a very common thing. No, I don't usually open it, and it's not too necessary to open it. Shen Qing waved his hand. That's right. I will try my best to pick you up in person in the future. Chapter 41. The itinerary. Zhou Qian still knew it very well, and did not directly send Shen Qing to his door. The car stop had when it was still a little distance from their home. Shen Qing looked up at him, and Zhou Qian smiled at her. You didn't say that you were with me on the 2 phone calls. Since Shen Qing didn't say anything, maybe she didn't want her brother to know about their relationship tonight. Zhou Qian didn't need to add unnecessary trouble to Shen Qing. Shen Qing didn't say anything and unfastened his seatbelt silently. Today, Zhou Qian opened his mouth in a slightly tangled tone. In fact, I don't drink very well, but sometimes I can't push the necessary socializing. If I'm too presumptuous in the future and exceed your bottom line, you can directly splash 2 glasses of water on me, and I can wake up quickly. You are not a bad person and criminal. No, I also scratched you today. Well, that's good. Zhou Qian smiled, and even raised his hand slightly, crossed his shoulder, and touched his back a little. Today's injury is not a bad thing. Shen Qing did not resist him, but was too fierce, so the wound left behind. Shen Qing's body has feelings. He likes this feeling. Love is not extravagant, but at least the harmony in this aspect is also good. Shen Qing frowned slightly and didn't know what to say. Zhou Qian can always take what she can say for granted and underestimate. I hope I didn't let you down today. Zhou Qian smiled, then unfastened his seatbelt, leaned over and pushed the car door open for her. Okay, go back early. I won't accompany you there. Your brother probably doesn't want to see me this night. Shen Qing nodded and was about to get out of the car when he suddenly turned to look at him. How about lipstick? Without losing color, Zhou Qian smiled. His eyes fell on Shen Qing's lips, and continued to open his mouth, and it was sweet. Shen Qing swallowed and quickly got out of the car. Zhou Qian could see that her ears were a little red when she got out of the car. Zhou Qian rolled down the window and saw Shen Qing disappear. When Shen Qing returned home, Shen Lian was already asleep. Shen Haoji was not, waiting for her while working on the sofa with a computer. Are you back? Seeing Shen Qing enter the door, he closed the computer and glanced at the time when he opened his mouth. What did you do today? Looking at Shen Qing walking to the sofa, Shen Haoji couldn't help asking again. I told you, I picked up Tang Ran and Qing Qing and others. Shen Haoji looked up at her, with a little inquiry in his eyes. He didn't ask much. He just sighed and nodded leisurely. Don't come back so late next time. Shen Qing looked at him and laughed. What's the next time? When I get married, it is still unknown whether I can go out to play. Shen Haoji looked at her and stopped talking. Finally, he smiled. Don't worry, you will still be free in the future. I promise. What do you promise? Shen Qing shook his head and smiled, stretched out, and then looked in the direction of the room. Brother, I'll go back to bed first. I'm sleepy. Go ahead. Shen Haoji exhaled. Shen Qing returned to the room, closed the door, and then pulled the wardrobe to take out his pajamas. In fact, she hesitated to take another shower. At Zhou Qian's place, she just washed before going out. She smelled carefully and could still smell Zhou Qian's shower gel. Hesitating, The mobile phone rang. Shen King clicked on the message, which was sent by Zhou Quian. Are you home? I'm leaving. Good night. I'm here. Good night. Shen King replied to the message and finally decided to change his clothes and go to bed. Changing his clothes and lying on the bed, Shen King turned off the light and felt the faint fragrance in the dark. The mobile phone rang again. This time it was the ringing. Didn't you say good night? Why did you call again? Shen King opened his mouth, and there was an unconscious soft smile in his tone. Shen King also realized it after the afterthought, which was very similar to the teasing of the familiar human. 大写 S. He also talks like this when chatting with her friends. Didn't they all talk about it? Why did you start chatting again? Are you going to bed? Zhou Quian smiled faintly, as if he didn't care about this detail. Shen King was relieved. Lie in bed. Where are you going back now? Shen King turned over. Back to our home. The car was so quiet that I suddenly wanted to talk to someone. Well, you said. Shen King pulled the quilt on his head, and then put his mobile phone on the bed. He leaned on high side and put his ear against his mobile phone. I don't have anything special to say. Shall I play a song for you? Zhou Quian said this, and then really played music. When the sound of music reached Shen King's ears, her heart felt a little warm. Zhou Quian didn't speak anymore, but the music never interrupted. Shen King soon fell asleep in the sound of music. She is really sleepy, not sleepy, but her body has a strong sense of overdraft. When she lies in bed, she feels that her whole body is very floating and her legs are soft. Zhou Quian was very fierce today, as if he was going to kill her. It's dangerous, but it's also sexy. When Shen King woke up the next day, his arm hurt a little. When he pulled his mobile phone out of his arm, it was already turned off. I don't know how she fell asleep last night, and I don't know how the mobile phone was pressed under my arm, but when I think that she fell asleep on the phone with Zhou Quian last night, it still feels quite subtle. Shen King feels amazing about Zhou Quian now. The time they have known and got along with each other is too short. She thinks it is irresponsible to say that they love or not. Love cannot be easily expressed or easily identified. However, she was a little happy in the midst of misfortune. Like the words of the parents' matchmaker in ancient times, it seems that he did not choose it himself from the beginning, and it seems that there is less freedom. Fortunately, the one who may not meet will become the other half of his life with you. He is not bad. Zhou Quian is really good. They should pay attention to each other and understand each other. Running a long-term marriage should not be a bad thing for them. Shen King stretched out and took his mobile phone to charge. She stood beside her and waited for her mobile phone to turn on. After turning on the mobile phone, she clicked on the recent call as soon as possible. She looked at the duration of her last call with Zhou Quian. More than an hour. Shen King was a little incredible. She seemed to fall asleep without listening to a few songs. Zhou Quian didn't hang up the phone after she fell asleep. Is it automatically hung up when the mobile phone is out of power? So when she is asleep, does Zhou Quian continue to play songs or just listen to her breathing when she sleeps? Shen King's heart was a little tight, curious and afraid of knowing. Exiting the call record, Shen King found that Zhou Quian had also sent her a schedule. His work and rest time in the next week. Chapter 42. Next time to look at the wedding ring. Shen King finished washing, and then carefully read the itinerary of Zhou Quian again. Zhou Quian was really busy, but he was also really careful. He even marked his lunch break time. Shen King subconsciously glanced at the time. She got up quite late. Isn't it time for Zhou Quian's meal in more than an hour? Shen King hesitated whether to take the initiative to call Zhou Quian. Shen King entered the call record. Zhou Quian's number was already in front of him, but he couldn't make up his mind to dial it. Unexpectedly, Zhou Quian called her first. The mobile phone rang in his hand, and it was just when he was distracted and thinking. Shen King was shocked by the ringtone and subconsciously pressed it through. Seeing that the page had been shown to be on the phone, she took a deep breath, put her mobile phone to her ear and spoke quickly. Aren't you at work at this point? There was a smile in Zhou Quian's voice. Shen King also laughed and wanted to ask what was going on with the phone, but he didn't ask. It seemed that they had finally become much closer. If this question came out, the relationship seemed to be far away again. Therefore, Shen King hesitated for 2 seconds and asked, "Are you going to have dinner soon?" "Yes," Zhou Quian responded with a smile and asked, "When did you get up?" Shen King glanced at his bed and smiled mischievously. "How do you know that I got up? I'm still in bed." "Really?" Zhou Quian smiled. "I thought you were up." "How to say it?" Shen King smiled. "You turned it on, and it should be to get up and charge it, I guess." Zhou Quian really thought so. He tried to call Shen King last night. Her mobile phone was automatically turned off before hanging up. If Shen King hadn't woken up yet, her mobile phone was still turned off, which would naturally not disturb her. If the phone was connected, she should have woken up. "I was joking with you. When I got up," Shen King smiled, paused for 2 seconds, and then said again, "Did I get up too late? I didn't have breakfast, and it was almost in time for your lunch." "Well, then you come on. I was in the company." Zhou Quian seemed to be silent for a few seconds, and then opened his mouth with a smile in his tone, as if he had some compromised connivance. "What?" Shen King was a little puzzled. "Have a meal. Do you know the address of the company?" 问号. Zhou Quian asked, paused for 2 seconds and said again. The girl said a word more than twice. "Isn't it a subtext?" Shen King's eyes rolled, and then he laughed. "Didn't you say to be frank with each other? If I want to have dinner with you, I will say it directly. Do you want to eat it together?" Zhou Quian smiled and followed her words. "Okay." Shen King smiled, then put down his mobile phone, pressed the hands-free press, and hurried to the wardrobe to find clothes. "I asked the assistant to set a seat near the company. If you are not in a hurry, change your clothes slowly. I will send you the address later." When Zhou Quian said this, Shen King's hand holding the clothes paused. It was a little incredible. "How do you know that I was looking for clothes?" "I guessed." Zhou Quian opened his mouth, or took a sentence. "All right, you clean up first. I'll see you later." Zhou Quian finished talking and hung up the phone. Shen King took the clothes to the bedside to choose, and finally was set to change into a satisfactory one. After changing clothes, Zhou Quian's message was sent. Shen King went according to the address. When she arrived, Zhou Quian was already waiting for her at the door. Shen King trotted over in a hurry. When he really got to the front, he suddenly braked and stood up straight. He looked at his face innocently. "I'm sorry, there was a little traffic jam. I didn't expect you to arrive so soon. The company is nearby." Zhou Quian looked light-winded. He raised his hand to hold Shen King's wrist and took her in. He opened his mouth as he walked. "I still had a meeting in the afternoon. The lunch break was not particularly long, so he could only eat some nearby." The two went straight to the direction of the window, which was the position he set for his assistant. When he went to the table to pull a chair for Shen King, Zhou Quian said again, "I should pick you up. It's really bad today. It was me who disturbed you to go to work." Shen King sat down and looked up at him. "It's okay." Zhou Quian smiled, touched her head, and then pulled the opposite chair and sat down, sitting face to face with her. Shen King lowered his eyes and was still feeling the warm touch of Zhou Quian's palm touching the top of her head just now. The menu had been handed over. "Let's see what you want to eat." Zhou Quian handed the menu to her and asked with a smile. Shen King took it over and turned it over, looking a little embarrassed. Zhou Quian looked at her, watched her turn over the menu, looked at her embarrassed look, with a little appreciation and indulgence. He stretched out his hand and didn't know how to order. Zhou Quian took the menu back to his hand. After turning over with his head, he turned on his mobile phone. "If you don't know what to eat, I'll order it." When I asked the assistant to choose a seat, I also asked him about the signature dishes here. "Why don't we try it?" "Well," Shen King nodded quickly with a smile. She was really confused about how to choose. Zhou Quian quickly called the waiter and ordered the food. While waiting for the dishes, Shen King looked at Zhou Quian and seemed to have looked at his watch several times. He still couldn't help asking, "Is it too late for you?" "I was a little busy, but I didn't have time to accompany you to dinner." "It was okay." Zhou Quian covered his arms under his sleeve and didn't look at it again. He looked at Shen King and said, "How was I?" Did you sleep well last night?" "I didn't know when I fell asleep last night. I fell asleep." "Why didn't you hang up the phone?" Shen King was a little embarrassed. "Familiarizing yourself with your breathing." Zhou Quian opened his mouth and looked at Shen King slightly. Shen King bit his lip and suddenly didn't dare to look at him. This seems to be quite ambiguous, but listening to Zhou Quian say it lightly, it seems to be just an ordinary thing. It's good that he didn't talk in his sleep, or snort. Zhou Quian smiled at her. "Your requirements for your other half are so simple." Shen King couldn't help laughing. "There is no need to ask too much." Zhou Quian smiled, and then looked at her and continued to speak. "Tomorrow, I'll get off work early tomorrow, pick you up, and take you to see the ring. The wedding dress has been finalized, and there is also a wedding ring. Under the premise that we don't know each other's preferences, there is no need to surprise. It's better to make sure that you like it in person. After all, the wedding ring is a very important step, and you have to wear it for a lifetime. Therefore, it is better for Shen King to really like it." Chapter 43. Can I kiss you? A good meal. When Zhou Quian walked to pay the bill, Shen King subconsciously looked at his hand. She was very curious whether he would pay with his mobile phone or wallet. It seemed that he felt Shen King's curious gaze. He smiled, put his hand directly on the tablet, and looked at her with a side smile. "Are you looking at how I pay the bill?" "I'm just curious." Shen King is very honest. Haha. Zhou Quian smiled. "How about you pay the bill today?" Shen King was a little surprised. She was willing to pay the bill, but it was not like what Zhou Qu said at the banquet. After marriage, you pay the bill. Now feel it first. Zhou Qian smiled and looked at Shen King with gentle eyes. Shen King moved his lips, lowered his eyes and said nothing. Zhou Qian said this with obvious meaning. After marriage, let Shen King be the master. By it, Zhou Qian smiled. While laughing, the mobile phone rang. He looked down at the mobile phone screen, and then raised his finger out of the door, signaling Shen King to pay the bill first, and he went out to answer the phone. When Shen King went out after paying the bill, Zhou Qian was still on the phone, right next to the door. Shen King walked to his side, a few steps away, not far away. She didn't dare to disturb Zhou Qian, but just waited obediently beside him. Zhou Qian's call was particularly long. When she hung up the phone, Shen King was already leaning against the wall next to the door. She couldn't hold on to the previous obedience standing for so long. Sorry to keep you waiting for a long time. Zhou Qian put away the phone and walked to Shen King. It's okay. Your work is important. Shen King quickly stood up straight again, and then looked at Zhou Qian innocently. Don't you still have a meeting? How about I go first? Shen King waited for him, just to tell him before leaving. Well, Zhou Qian nodded, looking thoughtful. He looked at Shen King and suddenly pulled her. Do you want to go to the company to have a look? Unexpectedly, Shen King is very honest. She stays away from her company. She is really not interested in this aspect. Well, Zhou Qian smiled. I didn't expect Shen King to be so direct, but in fact, there was also a vague loss. He was silent for 2 seconds. Instead of letting go of Shen King's arm, he continued to open his mouth. Is he in a hurry to go back? Or I'll take you to my car for a while. Shen King looked at Zhou Qian and was a little puzzled, but he did not refuse. He nodded. Shen King was not in a hurry to go back, and Zhou Qian wanted her to get into the car, but she didn't want to refuse. Zhou Qian's car was in the nearby parking lot, and the two people got in the car soon. This point in the parking lot was very quiet. After the two got on the bus, Shen King looked at Zhou Qian and saw what he brought her here to do. In fact, it's okay. It's rare for you to come out. I want to stay with you for a while. Zhou Qian turned his head to look at her, smiled, hesitated for a few seconds, and opened his mouth again with a tentative tone. My afternoon meeting was changed to online, and it will start here. Okay, this was asked by Zhou Qian. He suddenly wanted to stay with Shen King. As long as it's convenient for you. Shen King smiled, and then squeezed his lips, looking like he would never disturb. Zhou Qian took out his mobile phone. Hearing Shen King say this, he couldn't help but look at her again, and he didn't want to look away. Feeling Zhou Qian's gaze, Shen King swallowed unconsciously. Zhou Qian seemed to smile and came a little closer to her. Shen King leaned back a little. When Zhou Qian approached, he lowered his eyes slightly. At a glance, he saw the faint kiss marks under Zhou Qian's neck, which seemed to be left by herself. Last night, Zhou Qian was so fierce that she subconsciously sank a little. In a trance, the breath of Zhou Qian has been close. Realizing that Zhou Qian had come over, Shen King's heart tightened a little. She tilted her head slightly and dared not look into Zhou Qian's eyes. The atmosphere of Zhou Qian is getting closer and closer. Moreover, Shen King has already felt the warmth of Zhou Qian's palm. Zhou Qian has held her face lightly, and then pulled her face little by little, making the two people look at each other. The breath was entangled together. Shen King looked at Zhou Qian's face nearby, and his heart beat a little faster unconsciously. Shen King didn't dare to look directly at Zhou Qian, but his slightly drooping eyes subconsciously fell on Zhou Qian's lips, and she could see Zhou Qian's lips getting closer and closer until the breath lingered directly on her lips. Shen King knew what would happen next, but it was because he knew that he was more nervous. He was so nervous that he was about to put his nails into the flesh in his palm. Zhou Qian's lips were attached to a warm and soft touch. Shen King squeezed his lips and subconsciously hit a little. When Zhou Qian got close again, she raised her hand to cover his mouth. His mouth was lightly covered, but Zhou Qian's sexy voice still overflowed from his fingers. Zhou Qian looked at her with indulgence and doubt. Don't you ask? Shen King opened his mouth in a low voice, and his tone was very swaying. It seemed that he did not refuse, but just asked casually. Didn't you say to be frank with each other and say whatever you want? Zhou Qian kissed her. Can I kiss you without asking that sentence this time? Can I kiss you? Zhou Qian looked at her with a smile in his eyes. His breath was in Shen King's hand. Obviously, he didn't really ask that sentence. His voice was very vague through his palm, but looking at Zhou Qian's eyes, Shen King seemed to know that what he was asking was this sentence. The breath of Zhou Qian was in Shen King's palm, crisp and itchy, directly numb to Shen King's heart. Since Zhou Qian asked, Shen King nodded. Shen King's soft voice was very soft, even fragile, which made people feel heartbroken, and people couldn't help but want to be more presumptuous to her. After humming, Shen King consciously closed his eyes, and then lowered his palm covering Zhou Qian's lips a little. As soon as the fingertips stroked down Zhou Qian's chin, the wrist was held, and Zhou Qian pulled her hand back to her mouth. Shen King felt the force of his wrist being pinched. He opened it slightly and peeked a little, but saw Zhou Qian kissing her palm again. This time, he was more pissed, with imperceptible aggression in his beauty. Looking at Zhou Qian kissing her palm, Shen King subconsciously swallowed high as saliva and wanted to open his eyes, but he couldn't help but want to continue watching. Shen King passed by, then put his lips on the back of his hand and kissed him across his palm. Through a palm, Shen King looked at Zhou Qian's eyes nearby, and could clearly see the changes in his eyes, and the surging dark tide was about to break through the bottom of his eyes. Chapter 44. I'm afraid I can't close the scene. This time, there were only two of them in the car. When Shen King was pressed on the seat by Zhou Qian and kissed deeply, he naturally got used to it. At least it's much better than the last time in front of the assistant. Shen King always has the impulse to open his eyes and have a look. She really wanted to see what Zhou Qian looked like when she was in love. It seemed that he deliberately wanted to slow down and give Shen King some breathing space. Zhou Qian's kiss softened and even left his lips, but the tip of Zhou Qian's nose gently rubbed against her lips and cheeks. The kind of gentleness, as if to leave, was even more a kind of palpitating ambiguity. Shen King felt that his heart beat faster, with some indescribable softness and numbness. The mobile phone rang, Shen King's eyelashes trembled, and his eyes looked at Zhou Qian carefully. At this moment, Zhou Qian, as if he hadn't heard it, still rubbed Shen King's cheek in the same gentle and ambiguous arc. The breath of Zhou Qian caught on her face, which made her ears red. I don't know why. Shen King had a sense of absurdity in the middle of tenderness and honey, and the king didn't wake up early. Do you want to answer the phone first? Shen King opened his mouth very carefully. Well, Zhou Qian hummed softly, but did not stay away from her as Shen King thought, but continued to rub and took out his mobile phone. Mr. Zhou, it's almost here. You just need to go online. The voice of the assistant came from the other end of the phone. At this moment, the distance between the two people, Shen King heard the assistant's words clearly. Got it, Zhou Qian said in a low voice, and his breath was very obvious. He took his mobile phone a little further away and continued to look at Shen King with burning eyes. For several seconds, he slowly retreated and sat away for a few minutes. Shen King slowed down his heartbeat and turned to look at him. Zhou Qian had already bowed his head to tidy his clothes, and then turned on the mobile phone video. Zhou Qian has restrained his emotions just now, and now he has changed back to his usual appearance, light and elegant. Shen King sat straight beside him and didn't dare to make a sound. Shen King sat quietly beside him and listened to Zhou Qian's conference call, but she didn't feel bored. Zhou Qian's voice is beautiful, and there is a taste between seriousness and lassiness. Shen King only listened to Zhou Qian's voice, but did not deliberately listen to the count, and she lowered her eyes and waited patiently. When Zhou Qian's hand reached out, she was a little surprised and looked up at Zhou Qian. Zhou Qian was half smiling, and she was still in a working state, and even there was a sense of coldness in her voice. However, Zhou Qian's hand stretched out a little more in front of her, and even moved her fingertips a few times, which was obvious, and Shen King put her hand up. Shen King hesitated, but during the hesitation, there was still a faint feeling of joy in his heart. She put her hand on the palm of Zhou Qian's hand. Zhou Qian's hand moved gently, slightly adjusted her posture, and directly clasped her fingers. Zhou Qian's palm was very warm. I don't know if it was an illusion. Zhou Qian's original serious voice seemed to have a smile in his mobile phone. Shen King bit his lip, raised his eyes, and looked at Zhou Qian's side face. Zhou Qian should be able to feel it, but he didn't turn his head to look at her. But the force in his hand tightened. Shen King looked at his side face and suddenly I feel that time seems to have slowed down. That kind of length is not difficult, but it makes people feel that the years are quiet and good. Shen King was distracted and looked at Zhou Qian's face, as if he was looking at a beautiful picture, like a dream. In a trance, when Zhou Qian turned his head to look at her, it became a matter of course to be close. It seemed to be the direction of a normal story, as if it would have been done, so she didn't feel wrong. Even at the moment of eye contact, she subconsciously smiled at his gaze. Zhou Qian's eyes narrowed a little, passed by, then leaned to her side and kissed her lips directly. At a touch, Shen King hadn't reacted yet. Zhou Qian's face had returned to the screen, and then continued the meeting. People on the other end of the mobile phone may just think that Zhou Qian is just inadvertently turning his head. Only Shen King realized that the touch of being kissed by Zhou Qian on his lips had not dissipated for a long time. Let's do this first, and the rest will be discussed tomorrow. Zhou Qian finally said this. When he turned off the video, Shen King moved his body unnaturally, like an obedient child, sitting straight at Zhou Qian. After opening, Zhou Qian pressed the black foam and smiled at her. Well, Shen King nodded. Do you want to go to the toilet? Shen King looked at him with burning eyes, but he didn't expect Zhou Qian to ask this question, probably remembering the previous time, when Shen King sat in the car for a long time and wanted to go to the bathroom. Shen King shook his head quickly. So, are you thirsty? Zhou Qian asked this question again. Shen King frowned slightly, but shook his head again honestly. So, continue. Zhou Qian opened his mouth, and his throat didn't move up and down slightly. Shen King subconsciously wanted to shake his head, but stopped again and found that something seemed to be wrong. She turned her eyes to Zhou Qian. Zhou Qian smiled and approached Shen King. He raised his other hand, held her side face, and pulled her towards him. Shen King could feel that his face was pulled by little under Zhou Qian's palm, and gradually closer to Zhou Qian's lips. Zhou Qian didn't pull it again and stopped, but the palm holding her side face became warmer and warmer. Close at hand, Shen King felt that his breathing was not very smooth, but this unsmooth did not make her want to escape. But she felt that kissing was also a way to get air. She swallowed her saliva, then came up and kissed Zhou Qian's lips. The air was ignited in an instant. Zhou Qian was not so presumptuous that he really did something in the car, but the atmosphere in the whole carriage still made people feel that it had reached the boiling point. After a long time, Zhou Qian stepped back and let her go. When he retreated from her lips, he could see Shen King's slightly trembling eyelashes, her closed eyes, and her lips becoming rosy because of his reckless abuse. Shen King's breath was not very stable. He slowly opened his eyes. When he saw Zhou Qian's face in front of him, he looked at him without blinking. He was quite innocent, and even had a trace of loss, as if he didn't expect it to end like this. Zhou Qian looked at her and smiled helplessly and spoiledly. He rubbed her head with a smile, like a patient explanation, and his voice was hoarse and low. It's almost over. If it goes too much, it can't be closed. Chapter 45. Familiarize yourself with the environment and start the car. Shen King didn't ask Zhou Qian where he was going. She looked out of the car window and looked at Zhou Qian from time to time. The more she looked, the more interesting she felt. At this moment, he is driving the car safely, and he has regained his previous elegance. Zhou Qian, like wearing a mask, can freely switch back and forth between indifference and domineering aggression. Shen King looked at Zhou Qian at this moment and couldn't tell what it felt like. She felt that she might still be a little proud. Zhou Qian was so busy that he originally said that he would go back to the meeting, but now, he chose to accompany her and use a more perfect way. There may be so much trouble for those who have a meeting with him, but as a woman, in front of such a strong career-minded man, she asked him to make concessions and compromise. It's a kind of victory in itself. The other half who is about to get married regards you as more important than work, which is not a bad thing. The car is very quiet. Zhou Qian also played a song, which is not a particularly popular and noisy song at present. It is very melodious, just like the one that hypnotized her on the phone before. Don't ask me where to take you. It was Zhou Qian who opened his mouth first, with a little joke in his tone. Where are you going to take me? Shen King smiled and followed his words. I don't know where to go, but Zhou Qian answered directly and honestly. Shen King looked at him, lowered his eyes slightly, and said nothing more. Zhou Qian said he didn't know where to go. Maybe he really didn't know where to go, but this was also an answer, and it was an answer that would satisfy Shen King. I don't know where to go, but I still want to drive you with me. Shen King didn't ask any more questions, but he seemed to be more and more familiar with the direction of the car. Go to your place. Shen King looked out of the car window. His eyes rolled, and he still asked this question. Our place? Zhou Qian smiled, but soon corrected it. The direction is our place, but if you don't go home, just go around nearby. You are also familiar with the environment nearby. Zhou Qian's words are understated and taken for granted. In the future, they will live here together. Naturally, they need to know something about everything around them. Where there is a park, where there is a supermarket, and where they can eat. Eventually, they will be familiar with it. Why don't you go back? Shen King looked at Zhou Qian and was a little surprised. He had already arrived here. Why didn't he go back? Zhou Qian turned his head and looked at her, with a subtle helplessness in his eyes. Looking at each other, Shen King could feel the subtlety in his eyes, and he was even more puzzled. Zhou Qian didn't explain, but glanced out of the car window, and then slowed down. He found a parking space and unfastened his seatbelt before looking at Shen King again, as if he hesitated to answer her question. Shen King also looked at him with puzzledness and curiosity in his eyes. The marks on my body haven't disappeared yet. You should be the same, right? Zhou Qian looked at Shen King and said this after deliberation. Shen King looked at him and realized that his face was a little hot. Shen King felt that Zhou Qian's previous words that could not be finished coincided with the present in his mind at this moment. I don't continue because I'm afraid that I can't close the scene. And I don't go back because I'm afraid that I can't close the scene. Zhou Qian just looks deserted many times, but after all, he is not a real and complete abstinence. Or, looking at Shen King's face, Zhou Qian didn't move and he came closer and whispered, "Do you want to go up?" Shen King looked up at him, his eyes, and his close face. She felt that she was no stranger to the breath of Zhou Qian now, and she had never resisted. They are actually harmonious. After accepting their own fate, Zhou Qian was an unexpected joy for her. He doesn't have the bad habits of being a son and is not too arrogant. He is a good husband candidate. After all, he has the ability to turn the tide and save their company, and is also able to be a husband. There are not many people with good character. She has gained both and gained. Under such a premise, love is actually not so important. Since Zhou Qian asked her if she wanted to go up, it was already so straightforward. Shen King felt that there were some words that should be asked directly. After all, it was all set. It was for the future two people to go for a long time, and there were some things in her heart. But she looked at Zhou Qian's face at this moment, and it was still a little difficult to say. She took a deep breath, as if she had enough courage. Finally, she opened her mouth unnaturally. It was not enough at that time, so how can it be enough? The first time, I was interrupted by Zhou Zixuan, and last time I was interrupted by her brother's phone call. So, if it is not disturbed by anyone or anything, what is enough for Zhou Qian? This problem seems to be very shameful, but if they want to get married and fulfill their marital obligations, they still have to understand this aspect. Zhou Qian looked at her and smiled, but his eyes were a little deep. Do you want to try it? Twice, 3 times, or one night? Shen King looked at him carefully. After marriage, she must satisfy him, but she is still a little timid. Are you afraid of me? Zhou Qian looked at her and frowned slightly. I just want to have a number in my heart so that I won't be too embarrassed about this matter in the future. Shen King is very honest. I said, why? Oh, don't have to cater to me. Zhou Qian looked at her, smiled, turned around and pushed open the car door. Shen King hesitated and got out of the car with him. I'll take you for a walk nearby and get familiar with it. I'll find a place to have a meal later, and then I'll take you back. When Zhou Qian said this, he had already walked to her and stretched out his hand to her. Shen King put his hand in his palm, as if holding hands with Zhou Qian was a natural and ordinary thing now. Go. Zhou Qian raised his feet, but found that Shen King didn't move. You didn't answer me. Shen King looked at him and let him lead him, but he didn't follow his footsteps. He stood in place, a little unnatural, but very persistent. Zhou Qian smiled and faced her. I can't answer your question. This kind of thing really needs to be tried to know. It is really difficult for Zhou Qian to answer Shen King's question. There can be no clear answer to this kind of thing. He hasn't tried it. Why? If he is really presumptuous, he will want to do something to Shen King. However, Shen King asked this question, which made some bad factors of Zhou Qian surge uncontrollably. He asked to know the answer, and wanted to know the answer to try to satisfy him. No matter what my answer is, will you try your best to cooperate? Chapter 46. There was no way to escape. Zhou Qian's eyes deepened a little, staring at Shen King, and asked this question. He said that there is no need for Shen Qing. He to cater to him, but a woman, she has to satisfy you, and she really can't blame her for being unkind. Some things, for men, have an absolute attraction, which can make him occasionally put aside the educated elegance and want to lose control. Facing Zhou Qian's eyes, Shen King tried to swallow his saliva, but still nodded. They were not satisfied with each other. What did they rely on for a long time? Shen King lowered her eyes and sighed, and then looked at him again. She said boldly, I don't know what you are talking about for a long time. Are you trying not to divorce? But you said that marriage is loyalty. Looking at Shen King's appearance at this moment, Zhou Qian frowned, and then couldn't help laughing. You don't think I will feel dissatisfied and cheat after marriage, will you? Maybe. Shen King lowered his eyes, but did not deny it. Many people fall in love sincerely when they get married, and they can't guarantee that the marriage will not be derailed, let alone them. You said it well before you got married, but if you are not satisfied with something for a long time, you will inevitably make mistakes. Such a thing as making mistakes cannot be guaranteed, nor is it the original intention. It is uncontrollable changeability. So you have so many things in your heart. Zhou Qian laughed out loud. Okay, He sighed softly and raised his hand to pat her head. In that case, can I make a request? I don't guarantee that I can do it, but I try my best. Zhou Qian looked at her, suppressed his heartbeat, smiled, shook his head helplessly, and then pulled her into his arms. You have to send it up by yourself. Zhou Qian's tone was quite helpless, whispering in her ear. Zhou Qian wanted to be good to her and let her be free, but Shen Qing's words were no different from directly luring him to make mistakes. But he did not make other mistakes, but on her, Zhou Qian gently held the back of her head, then tilted his head slightly and kissed her in her ear. Shen Qing didn't move and let him hold him, but responded in a low voice as he spoke. Zhou Qian seemed to swallow a few times, and then took a step back and let her go. There seems to be a good coffee shop nearby. Aren't you interested in coffee? Go and have a taste. Do you want to drink coffee at this time? Shen Qing looked at him in surprise. I drank with you. Zhou Qian raised his hand, touched her side face, and looked at her burning. After drinking, if you are sleepy, I will send you back later. If you are not sleepy, I will not let you go back. When Zhou Qian said this, it seemed that none of the words were sexy, but the whole sentence was heard in Shen Qing's ears. But it had a strong explicit meaning. Since he wants to know, he can give Shen Qing an exact answer to himself with practical actions. Shen Qing looked at him in silence for a few seconds and nodded. Zhou Qian hooked the corners of his mouth without making a sound, sighing in his heart. But the man's desire made people uncontrollably proud. After drinking a cup of coffee, I found a place to eat near the coffee shop. After dinner, the two took a walk and walked slowly back to the car. Where are you going back? When Zhou Qian saw the car, he stopped, turned his head slightly to look at Shen Qing, and asked this question. The question was where to go back, but this answer directly means that she can't go back tonight. Are you sleepy? Seeing Shen Qing's silence, Zhou Qian asked this question again. This time, Shen Qing shook his head honestly. When he got home, Zhou Qian looked at her, smiled, then took her wrist and pulled her away from the car directly. It's not far away, so the two of them walked home downstairs. The process and journey have also given Shen Qing time to regret. Shen Qing didn't say anything all the way, but he didn't regret it. As soon as the two entered the door, Zhou Qian directly leaned Shen Qing against the door, and the two looked at each other. Shen Qing's heart beat very fast. He knew what was going to happen, so he was nervous. Zhou Qian stared at her, silently took out his mobile phone, and turned it off in front of Shen Qing. Shen Qing swallowed subconsciously, with a premonition that he was going to the mountain of swords and the sea of fire. She lowered her eyes and took out her mobile phone. Just as she was about to turn it off, Zhou Qian had raised her hand and pulled it away. We are different. Zhou Qian smiled, and then called Shen Haoji with her mobile phone in front of Shen Qing. He can turn off the phone. No one will look for him or say anything. Shen Qing is a girl, and Shen Haoji is so close to her. If she doesn't explain, her family will be in a hurry. Seeing that the phone had been dialed out, Shen Qing was tight in her heart. She was thinking and considering how to tell her brother and what reason to find. Hey, Shen Haoji's voice soon came from the other end of the phone, and Zhou Qian pressed the number of headless. Hearing Shen Haoji's voice, Shen Qing suddenly couldn't say a word and was a little confused. The good child didn't know how to lie. Zhou Qian looked at her, his eyes a little deeper, and then cowed lightly and opened his mouth by himself. Shen Haoji on the other end of the phone seemed to pause for several seconds, and then a smile came, very reluctant. Mr. Zhou, he is with me. She is sleepy and has fallen asleep. I won't send her back today. I don't want to wake her up. There was silence on the other end of the phone. I'll send her back tomorrow. Stepbrother Zhou doesn't have to worry. She is safe. Zhou Qian said that the safety is that she is with him and does not run around outside, so there is no need to worry. But in Shen Haoji's opinion, Shen Qing's stay in Zhou Qian is the root of insecurity. Good night, stepbrother Zhou. After saying this, Zhou Qian hung up the phone directly. Shen Haoji couldn't say anything. He explained it, and he explained it with a very polite attitude. He and Shen Qing are about to get married, and his brother really can't control too much. When they really got married, she didn't go back. Occasionally, she was asked to go back to her mother's house. If she didn't come back in the future, Shen Haoji should have told him. I told him. Do you have anything else to explain? Zhou Qian looked at her. No. Shen Qing shook his head and watched Zhou Qian throw his mobile phone aside, then held her face and kissed herself fiercely. For the first time, Shen Qing really felt that Zhou Qian would be crazy and presumptuous if he didn't drink. She is like a mortal who hands the key to the beast. If she chooses to give the trapped beast a way out, she will have no way to escape. Chapter 47. The fate is subtle. When Shen Qing fell asleep, He glanced at the direction of the window in a daze and could see that the sky had begun to turn white. Zhou Qian is really not polite. When he woke up, Shen Qing only felt that his whole body was about to fall upside down. The strength to open her eyes was almost exhausted, but when she realized that she was left alone in the room, her strength came back in an instant and suddenly sat up from the bed. She was alone in the room, which was Zhou Qian's familiar and strange room. The most embarrassing thing for her was that she was naked and the clothes were not on her body, but at the end of the bed. Zhou Qian had folded it for her. Shen Qing moved his body and then pulled his clothes in front of him. When she put it on, she looked down and could still see the kiss marks on her body. Well, the last one has not disappeared, but this time it has increased again, and it is quite shocking. Zhou Qian was really not polite to her last night. Anyway, she provoked herself and insisted on asking the answer. After getting dressed, Shen Qing took a deep breath, then got out of bed, entangled in the direction of the room door and the bathroom for a few seconds, and then walked to the bathroom. If you guess correctly, there are already toiletries prepared for her by Zhou Qian. After coming out of the bathroom, she still walked to the door of the room. The opening of the door was very quiet, and she looked out with a sneaky head first. Zhou Qian was in the living room, and he was sitting on the sofa with a computer in front of him, as if he was in a meeting again. Shen Qing was slightly relieved. Fortunately, her movement was small enough. Although Zhou Qian found her, the person on the other side of the computer should not have found her. Zhou Qian's body was slightly off, touched the screen, and then walked to her silently. Shen Qing didn't make a sound, but came over obediently, and she deliberately avoided the screen and sat next to Zhou Qian at a distance. Take a break for half an hour and continue after a while. Zhou Qian saw her sit down and quickly opened his mouth. But this was not said to Shen Qing. Zhou Qian closed the computer after saying that. When he put the computer on the coffee table, he opened his mouth and didn't deliberately look at Shen Qing, as if he was asking carelessly, "How about it? Do you feel tired?" When the words fell, Zhou Qian slowly raised his eyes to look at Shen Qing, and continued to speak. "Can you accept it?" He was so serious during the meeting just now, but now he suddenly turned around. Why did he ask this question? "It's okay." Shen Qing still had a backlash when she said this. She looked up at Zhou Qian unnaturally, half temptingly. "Isn't it like this every day?" She can accept it, but it doesn't mean that she can accept this every day. Haha, I can do it if you need it. Zhou Qian looked at her, smiled for a few seconds, and continued. "You don't want to know the answer yourself. I just want to give you an answer. However, indulgence is not a good habit." Hearing Zhou Qian say this, Shen Qing was slightly relieved. Zhou Qian looked at her and suddenly stretched out his hand and hugged her to his side. The distance between the two became closer, and Zhou Qian's words became ambiguous. "I think you still had a good feeling last night." Shen Qing opened his eyes, but he didn't dare to look at Zhou Qian, and his ears were burning. She is not as cheeky as Zhou Qian. Many times, Zhou Qian blocks her so that she can't speak. "Do I satisfy you?" When Zhou Qian said this, he seemed to ask very seriously, but it didn't seem to be like that. Shen Qing found that Zhou Qian was still very two-sided. "How serious and elegant you are at ordinary times, but how rogue you are at this time." Shen Qing didn't understand why Zhou Qian's image and personality suddenly became like this. At the beginning of Zhou Qian, wasn't he very thoughtful, reserved and deserted? "Are you scolding me?" Zhou Qian looked at Shen Qing's face and said with a low smile. "No." Shen Qing shook his head quickly. "You scolded in your heart." Zhou Qian was very determined, but he was not angry. Instead, he seemed to be in a good mood. Sometimes it's not a bad thing to have some love between husband and wife. Zhou Qian looked at her side face and continued to say this. His tone was not even a joke. He really felt and summed up like this. "There is interest between husband and wife, which is good for feelings. There is no passion between husband and wife, and there is no desire for any sex, which is dangerous for marriage." Shen Qing looked at Zhou Qian, bit his lip, and went out. "I was really tired last night, but if I had feelings, wouldn't I hit you in the face if I didn't feel it?" She is a normal woman, and her physiology is also normal. Zhou Qian is so presumptuous. How can she have no feelings? "That's good." Zhou Qian smiled and kissed her on the face. "Are you hungry? I'll get you something to eat." Zhou Qian was about to get up after saying this. Shen Qing quickly pulled him. "Didn't you have to continue the meeting in time? Half an hour?" Zhou Qian looked down at the back of his hand and raised his feet to the kitchen. Shen Qing looked at Zhou Qian's figure entering the kitchen. He hesitated for a few seconds, but still couldn't help following her. She stood at the door of the kitchen, leaning slightly against the door frame, and looked at Zhou Qian inside. "Zhou Qian, do you want me to learn to cook?" Shen Qing rarely calls his name directly. Zhou Qian turned his head and smiled. In fact, there was no need. Zhou Qian turned around, faced her, and then walked to let her in. Shen King walked to Zhou Qian's side and looked at him with his head. Seeing that he skillfully took out an egg, he even turned his eyes to look at Shen King. Do you want one or two? I can do it, Shen King said. Zhou Qian smiled, put down the egg, and faced her. When he opened his mouth again, his tone was a little serious. Strictly speaking, in fact, you don't need to know how to cook. I can do it, so if I have time, I can do it. If I don't have time, I'm not here and can't eat with you. You should have any need and heart. Do you want to cook for yourself? Shen King bit his lip and looked at Zhou Qian. He felt that what he said made sense. He looked into his eyes and nodded leisurely. Zhou Qian quickly cooked a bowl of noodles for Shen King, added 2 eggs, helped her put the noodles on the table, and went back to the sofa to continue the meeting. Shen King sat at the table, eating the food cooked for her by Zhou Qian, while watching Zhou Qian in a meeting not far away. This feeling is still quite subtle. She can feel that the originally irrelevant life and everything between the two people are slowly getting closer. There is a person who seems to have never appeared in your life at all. It has nothing to do with you, but you will live with him for the rest of your life. Chapter 48. Accept it slowly. When Shen King finished eating the noodles, Zhou Qian also just finished the meeting, closed the computer, and came directly to the dining table. In the past, my mother also liked to cook noodles for me, which is the fastest way to fill my stomach. When Shen King put down his chopsticks, he looked up at Zhou Qian, who had already walked in front of him. I don't know why, but I suddenly want to say this tea. Oh, Zhou Qian. Zhou Qian smiled, then bent down slightly, drew a piece of paper for her, came to her in person, and wiped the corners of her mouth. Zhou Qian's movements are very gentle and careful. Shen King didn't move. He subconsciously raised his eyes and saw Zhou Qian's face close at hand. Unconsciously, this face seemed to have become much more familiar, as if it was no longer an irrelevant stranger. When your mother passed away, I was very busy abroad and really didn't find a chance to. Oh, come back. Zhou Qian put down the tissue, then gently held Shen King's face and looked at her face to face. Shen King's eyes were a little surprised. You know, of course, I should know the relationship between our two families, but he really couldn't come back. Zhou Qian was quite disappointed and regretful when he said this. At that time, he was really busy and had no position to come back. Are you full? Zhou Qian looked slightly away, glanced at the empty bowl on the table, and changed the topic with a smile. Well, Shen King nodded, was silent for 2 seconds, and asked, will you send me back? In the past, she might have said that she could go back by herself, but now, she looked at Zhou Qian and still asked this question. She had a sense of weakness and compromise, and even a sense of acceptance. She was willing to accept all the goodness of Zhou Qian to her, and willing to accept Zhou Qian to become the other half of her later life. Now that you have accepted it, you don't have to think too much about whether you owe it or not. Okay, Zhou Qian nodded with a smile and sent you off. While Zhou Qian was talking, he raised his hand slightly and flicked it on her forehead. It was almost noon when Zhou Qian sent Shen King back. Zhou Qian was sent to the door and did not follow him in, but they would not be apart for too long. It was agreed before that he would get off work early today, and they went to see the wedding ring. Shen King watched Zhou Qian's car LF before he withdrew his eyes and entered the house. That feeling is very wonderful. The relationship between her and Zhou Qian is more and more like a couple. Whether it is an illusion or not, whether it is sincere or not, at least they are really harmonious in getting along. Maybe this is a good thing for those who are about to get married, who wants to hold a wedding without a complete familiarity or good impression. At this point, Zhou Qian was still thoughtful. He should have deliberately wanted them to develop in this aspect. All the little partial men slowly approached Shen King. As Zhou Qian approached, Shen King was in a state of acceptance and comfort, neither particularly awkward nor particularly eager. Gradually, when Shen King entered the house, she was shocked. She thought there was no one at home at this point, but she didn't expect Shen Zhou to be there. During this period, her father was obsessed with fishing, but when the weather was good, he would find a companion to go fishing together for a whole day. At this time, her brother should also be at work. Brother, why are you still at home? Shen King was quite unnatural when he asked, and it was obvious that he had done something wrong. Shen Haoji didn't answer. He closed the computer on the coffee table and looked up at her. It was not an inquiry, but her lies. He knows his own sister best. Did Zhou Qian send you back? Shen Haoji looked at her for a while and said this. Yes. Shen King nodded leisurely and did not deny it. Didn't you listen to what I told you last time? Shen Haoji looked at her, and then looked down and patted the position next to him. Shen King was silent, but he still sat down obediently. If you are really ideal, come to the company to help me. Shen Haoji looked at her and sighed. I can't help you, But Shen King is very self-aware. She can't help with the company. It is her best effort not to cancel the marriage with the Zhou family. You don't need to know anything. Just fight for me. Anyway, you are ideal. Shen Haoji looked at her for a few seconds before he opened his mouth again. That's the decision. It's not good for the Zhou family to watch you do nothing. But Shen King wanted to say something more. Shen Haoji's eyes were a little deeper, forcing her not to continue to resist the decision. Shen Haoji really doesn't need Shen King to do anything for him. He just wants to put Shen King under his eyes. Lost me, GHG. Did you sleep with Zhou Qian? Shen Haoji looked at her, sighed softly, and asked this bluntly. Shen King was shocked and didn't answer. Shen Haoji glanced at her, then withdrew his gaze, but raised his finger to point to his neck, indicating that there was a kiss mark here. Shen King raised his hand to cover it. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. He paused for a few seconds before opening his mouth. We will get married next month. Well, Shen Haoji nodded, but his eyes were a little dark. He didn't know what kind of existence Zhou Qian was for Shen King, but in his opinion of him, who was also a man and about the same age, Zhou Qian did not make him particularly satisfied. He was not really as reserved and decent as he looked on the outside, and had to be like a highly educated person, with all kinds of hypocrisy. Shen Haoji is very realistic. He never feels that he is a perfect person and never feels that his character is so high. He himself is such a person, so he feels that he understands Zhou Qian and thinks that Zhou Qian is the same person. Will you go to the company with me in the afternoon? Shen King frowned, saying that the wind is the rain, and the pace is too fast. Shen King pursed his lips and was quite dissatisfied. But before he could say anything, Shen Haoji's phone rang. When Shen Haoji answered the phone, he glanced at Shen King. Shen King didn't look at him and leaned on the sofa, but he could faintly hear the girl's voice on the other end of the phone. Okay, I'm about to go out. Okay, I'll see you later. Shen Haoji's expression is ordinary, but his voice seems to be very gentle. When he hung up the phone, he turned his eyes to look at Shen King. Shen King sat up straight for a while and looked at him obediently. Brother, if you have something to do, go first. I'm going out for dinner with my friends. Would you like to come with me? Is it inconvenient for me? Shen King smiled with a clear look. What is the matter with your sister on a date? Shen King could hear that the other party had a close relationship with him. Chapter 49. The promise was missed. Shen King thought that Shen Haoji had an appointment with someone, so she stopped going to the company today. Who would have thought that he would come back to pick her up after dinner? When he got into the car, Shen King was incredible, but there was nothing he could do. Anyway, there is no way to change it. She moved her body, sat up as straight for a few minutes, and then accepted the result and gossiped. By the way, brother, who did you have dinner with today? After a while, I will tell you when it is more stable. Shen Haoji turned his head to look at her and did not deny the gossip in her eyes, which was a acquiescence to the word that she said before. Do you know that you have a girlfriend? Shen King looked at him and continued to ask. Tell him later, don't be in a hurry. Shen Haoji smiled, looked at Shen King again, and spoiled him helplessly. Have you found that you are actually easy to compromise? This kind of personality is actually easy to suffer. Otherwise, Shen King smiled and said, if you have come, let's settle down with it. Shen King is indeed easily shaken by many things and easy to be persuaded. Zhou Zixun has been persistent for her for a long time, but that is also due to the tolerance of the marriage contract between them. After all, if they want to be together in the future, they will always be tolerant and peaceful. So she is more indulgent and habitual about Zhou Zixun. However, Zhou Zixun was not grateful. She was a little lost, but she was not really sad. At least she was not heartbroken. If it hadn't been for her father's request that the Zhou family must fulfill the engagement as soon as possible, Shen King might have given up long ago. She has not been particularly obsessed with anything until now. She has been living under the wings of her father and brother, as if there is no one else outside the family and nothing she has to do. From Zhou Zixun to Zhou Qian, she didn't get too entangled. It seemed that the result would not change, and she could help their family. That's all, including now that he asked her to go to the company with him. He was not happy, but he was not really so unhappy that he would rather die. For Shen King, everything is lucky, as if it can be left all right. Shen Haoji looked at her and stopped talking. Finally, he shook his head and laughed. Okay, it's not true anyway. Shen King's personality really follows a shrewd person like Zhou Qian, and it is inevitable to suffer losses. What? Shen King was puzzled and didn't understand what he was talking about. It's okay, you follow me to the company to help me during this period, and we'll talk about the future later. Shen Haoji smiled, and his smile was full of soothing meaning. Oh, Shen King nodded and didn't ask much. She couldn't see through her brother's mind, and there was no need to ask. There were many different ideas between them. The more they talked, the more unpleasant they would be. Let's seek the same thing and reserve the differences. Anyway, no matter how much she disagrees with her brother and her father, after all, she is still her only family member. His brother is a very realistic person. She knows, but everyone has their own aspirations, and she doesn't have to be influenced. I will open a cafe with you after a while. Is your ideal life now? Shen Haoji looked at Shen King and raised his hand to touch her head. This tone was like asking a child if the toy she liked now had changed. Well, but let's talk about it later. You should do your career well first. I'm not in a hurry. Shen King is really not in a hurry. She still has a lifetime to take it easy. It is not too much to open for decades. Moreover, Zhou Qian also said before that if she wanted to, he could also help her. Shen King was a little confused. After she got married, which family was she from? Who should she listen to? And whose kindness should she accept? Shen King is not independent enough, but she can't be blamed. Because of the growing environment, she has not suffered too much. There is nothing that requires independent efforts to be achieved. Everything about her, whether it is her preferences or her career direction, is clearly known by her family. She didn't work independently to do something to prove her necessity and opportunity. Okay, Shen Zhou smiled and continued to drive steadily. Shen Haoji is an invincible and realistic person. He is more realistic and flexible than Shen King thought. He is actually arrogant in his bones, but he can also accept setbacks. In terms of his machismo, he actually doesn't want to exchange his sister for the turning point of his company, but at this point, he had no choice. But he would not accept his fate. Maybe this is the difference between him and Shen King. Shen King is easily shaken and easy to accept fate. He is not. He has suffered humiliation, but if he can rise again one day, he will definitely overthrow everything. In his own words, it may be a last resort to sacrifice his sister, but it is also natural to stop loss in time. After arriving at the company, Shen King was also obedient and made several cups of coffee for Shen Haoji according to her own interests and nature. Shen King just did nothing all afternoon under Shen Haoji's eyes. When the phone rang, she was sitting in a daze on the office chair with her head in her hands. Instead, Shen Haoji worked on the sofa beside him, and Shen King was uncomfortable sitting on the sofa. Shen King took out her mobile phone. When she saw the number on the screen, she was shocked. After a moment, she remembered that she had forgotten to tell Zhou Qian that she had come to the company with her brother. She had agreed with Zhou Qian before that they would go to see the wedding RNG together. When Shen King connected the phone, he could see that Shen Haoji had stopped and looked at her. I'm down here. After the phone was connected, Zhou Qian's voice came. Zhou Qian? Shen King quickly interrupted him, and his tone was a little tangled. I forgot to tell you, I'm at my brother's place, at the company. You haven't set off yet, or I'll go find it. She is worried that Zhou Qian has gone to their house to pick her up. I'll go home for dinner later. Dad said he caught a lot of fish today, so let's go back early to prepare. Shen Haoji's voice sounded, and the volume was loud enough for Zhou Qian on the other end of the phone to hear. Shen King looked up at Shen Haoji, which Shen Haoji had never said before. Zhou Qian on the other end of the phone seemed to be silent for a few seconds, and then smiled in a low voice. It's okay, you and your brother go home for dinner early. I'll have a look myself. If you see something good, I'll send it to you. If there is no suitable and I like, I'll design another one myself. It should be in time to hurry up. Zhou Qian's words are very calm and tolerant. Well, Shen King nodded and looked up at Shen Haoji with some resentment in his eyes. He didn't say he would go back for dinner. Now he missed Zhou Qian's appointment. When she felt a little sorry for her, Chapter 50 I'll drive for you. On the way home, Shen King really received a lot of information from Zhou Qian. He sent a lot of photos. Looking at those photos, Shen King felt even more depressed. Zhou Qian didn't take some pictures to perfunctory her at will. Zhou Qian really went to see it. Each picture had a different background, and it could be seen that it was taken in real time. He was a big man to see the ring by himself, but her bride was absent. Take a good ride. Shen King was replying to the message. Shen Haoji suddenly stretched out his hand, took her mobile phone away from her hand, and then pressed the black and left it in front of the car. Brother, what are you doing? Shen King was dissatisfied. I asked you to take a good ride. Shen Haoji turned his eyes to look at her and had no choice. Why? Do you like last week's banquet? Shen Haoji couldn't see Shen King's orderly reply to the message. He was careful, as if the other side was the king. When you are with him, just deal with it. You have to go home. Why are you still talking to him? Shen King looked at him for several seconds. Brother, Don't you like Zhou? If you are a man, you will understand that it is difficult to like it. But you are a girl, so you don't understand. Shen Haoji didn't hide it. I felt that Shen King, a girl, was really difficult to understand. But I'm about to marry him. Shen King seems a little innocent. It's her marriage to Zhou. It doesn't matter whether her brother likes it or not. Besides, it may not matter whether she likes it or not. But since she has decided to get married, of course, she has been going for a long time. Her brother doesn't give her face and hangs her dissatisfaction with Zhou directly on his face, which is not very generous. Shen King took a deep breath and raised his hand to take back his mobile phone, but he did not reply in front of Shen Haoji. When the two went home, Shen Lian was indeed at home. Shen Haoji was also unambiguous. He rolled up his sleeves and went to the kitchen to help. Shen King also followed. He entered the kitchen and watched at the door. Shen Lian is in a good mood. He has gained a lot today. Even the voice of talking to Shen Haoji has a strong smile. Shen King watched at the door, watching her father pounding the fish in the water, and watching Shen Haoji pick up the fish and scrape the scales. This picture is very harmonious, and the feeling of home has been found. Shen King used to like to go back and forth around her mother in the kitchen. Since her mother passed away, it seems that she hasn't felt such a moment for a long time. The previous education and atmosphere of their family to a large extent made her feel that she and her mother were relatively close, and his brother had been with his father. Therefore, when her mother died, Shen King felt that she was left alone in the world for a long time. Maybe her mother's departure not only made her feel like a dream, but also her father after a little home. I put down the things in my hand and started to go home, but it didn't make much sense to be late. After standing at the door for a while, Shen King raised his feet and left. When he got to the balcony and took out the phone, he subconsciously turned his head to look at the direction of the kitchen, and then he replied to Zhou with peace of mind. She carefully looked at all the photos sent to her by Zhou. Zhou's aesthetics has always been very online. The styles she took for her are very generous. She really can't tell which one is better, so she replied that everything was good, and asked Zhou's idea. After the message was sent, I didn't receive a reply from Zhou. She looked at the time, and her reply was sent by Zhou, which was almost an hour later. I don't know if Zhou is busy with other things now, or he doesn't want to pay attention to her. Shen King frowned. The more I looked at it, the more I felt that my reply seemed to be very perfunctory. She did not participate in anything. Instead, she threw the problem to Zhou. If she were Zhou, she might also be angry. After hesitating for a while, Shen King sent a message to Zhou again. This time, she made a choice and chose one of the models in the photo, saying that it was good. However, Zhou still didn't reply to her. Shen King was a little lonely, but he didn't have the courage to call. That night, Shen King did not receive a reply from Zhou. She had dinner and went back to her room early. Tossing and turning, she couldn't sleep. A long time passed, and it was almost early in the morning that Shen King received a reply from Zhou. What is given is an official introduction of the ring that looks like the store. Shen King hurried back this time and said that she would take a look right now. True, after she sent it, she really came to see it. However, without reading a few words, Zhou's phone call came directly. Shen King quickly connected the phone with his mobile phone to his ear, and Zhou's voice soon came from the other end. Just take a look at the introduction of the ring when you have time. Don't worry, it's good to have the one you like. Zhou's voice was very soft, but the background on his side seemed to be a little noisy. Through the phone, Shen King could hear a little noise and music. Where are you? Shen King still couldn't help asking. Outside, Zhou answered, paused for 2 seconds and continued, not socializing, but outside with friends. It was still early after I saw the ring. My friend made an appointment with me, and I came out. Zhou made up for this again. He deliberately set aside time today. He originally wanted to watch the ring with Shen King and then have dinner together in the evening. Well, Shen King hummed softly and asked again, didn't you drink too much? The amount of wine in Zhou is actually not so good. Hearing that Zhou went out to party with his friend, Shen King was a little worried, but he was also relieved in his heart. At least Zhou did not ignore her before, but had no time to reply to her with his friends. After drinking a little, Zhou had a smile in his voice, but he was also quite helpless. It was difficult not to drink when he came out for a party. So how are you? Shen King was a little worried. It's okay now, but I don't know when they will break up. Zhou laughed. Are you ready to go to bed? I was ready, but I didn't fall asleep. Shen King was very honest. She pursed her lips and was silent, and then said, how do you go back together? Will your assistant pick you up? He's off work. I'll find a substitute driver later. While Zhou was talking, Shen King could still hear him, as if someone was calling his name. He called me again. I guess I have to drink around. You should go to bed early. I may go back directly if I drink too much later, so I won't say good night to you. 大姐 S. King hummed softly, but did not hang up the phone. Why don't you call a substitute driver and I'll drive for you? Shen King said this in a tangle. Chapter 51. Going to find Zhou Quian. Shen King took a taxi according to the address given by Zhou Quian. She was sneaking out when she went out. She didn't want her father and brother to know. It's really amazing. Everyone knows that she and Zhou Quian are getting married. But every time she goes out with Zhou Quian, she doesn't want people to know. Maybe it's more sensitive to be sneaky. If you really want to explain it directly to your family, it's like completing a relationship for marriage, like giving and sacrificing for the family. She has sex with Zhou Quian in private. She may feel more selfish, and she is still her own feeling. Shen King got out of the car in front of a bar. After getting out of the car, she looked around the bar and hesitated for a few seconds before lifting her feet in. At this moment, the bar was very lively. The music in the hall was very loud and there were a lot of people. After Shen King went in, she stood in the middle and only felt that the music made her unable to distinguish between the east, west, north and south. She hesitated and took out her mobile phone. Zhou Quian only sent her the address before, but did not tell her which room it was. The phone was connected quickly, but not so quickly this time. Shen King played for a few minutes, but Zhou Quian didn't answer. She put away the phone in frustration, and then stubbornly went inside, wanting to see which private room Zhou Quian was in. After all, you don't need to go in and see it in person. If you look at the door, you can roughly see whether Zhou Quian is in the private room. Shen King looked at several private rooms, but did not see Zhou Quian. She leaned her back against the wall next to the door of the private room, wondering whether to continue to look for him aimlessly. Shen King, a voice sounded, and air was a little tentative in the tone. Shen King raised his eyes when he heard the sound and saw a woman standing in front of him, as if she had just come out of the private room. Sister Lan. Shen King didn't dare to admit it. Yes. Guan Lan nodded with a smile and breathed a sigh of relief. Shen King also recognized her. It seems that she really didn't know the wrong person. I looked like you just now. I didn't dare to recognize her. Have you grown so big? Hello, Sister Lan. Why are you here? I thought you were still abroad. Shen King smiled, with a decent smile. In fact, she doesn't know how to face Guan Lan, but at this moment, Guan Lan is enthusiastic about her, and she must respond with the same attitude. Guan Lan is her brother's ex-girlfriend. They have been separated for many years. She vaguely remembers that she was not happy when they broke up. So now Guan Lan sees that she is still so enthusiastic, which makes her feel uncomfortable. It's not like the unhappy sister who broke up with her ex. I just came back. Guan Lan smiled, and then pulled her, like a child. Indeed, when Guan Lan was close to her brother, she was really young. Why did you run away from the bar? Guan Lan looked at her, and then looked around. Do you have any friends, or alone? Shen King thought for a time and nodded. I was alone. Come on, come with me, little girl. Don't run around in it alone. Guan Lan smiled and couldn't help pulling Shen King into the private room. Coincidentally, Shen King actually saw Zhou Quian in front of him. She saw it at the door just now. Zhou Quian was indeed not there just now. At this moment, he seemed to have come out of the bathroom, and he seemed to have drunk a lot. He didn't answer the phone just now. Maybe he vomited in the bathroom. Looking at him, Shen King was stunned for a moment. Qian, did you vomit? Guan Lan opened her mouth first, with a smile and listening to the tone, which seemed to be quite familiar with Zhou Quian. No, he drank too much and hid the wine. Zhou Quian smiled. His eyes swept over Guan Lan's face, and then fell on Shen King's face. Looking at each other, Shen King subconsciously lowered his eyes to avoid Zhou Quian's gaze. It's a subconscious reaction. In fact, Shen King himself can't say why he avoided it. She could feel the dodging of Shen King's eyes. Zhou Quian didn't say anything. After laughing, he went back to the sofa and sat down. There were still quite a lot of people in the private room. However, Shen King didn't know anyone else. After all, the age gap was here, and these were not the age to play with her. Shen King has been sitting beside Guan Lan, and he is still a little far away from Zhou Quian. Suddenly, there was a little sister in the private room, which caused a lot of people. However, Guan Lan was still very thoughtful. He kept looking at her and didn't let her drink with anyone. Shen King was actually a little bored, but people had already entered the private room, and it was not easy to run. She couldn't refute Guan Lan's face. Moreover, Guan Lan blocked a lot of wine for her. If Guan Lan drank too much, if no one sent her, she still had the obligation to send her back. Looking at them drinking and being teased like a child, Shen King was a little bored. He simply got up and hid in the bathroom. Shen King really went into the bathroom and separated the sound outside. Only then did Shen King feel that his whole mind was quiet. She took out her mobile phone and could see the message sent to her by the mobile phone last week at the banquet. It seems that in the bar, messages and phone calls are not easy to be found. No wonder she called Zhou Quian, but he didn't answer. I was just about to pick you up, but I didn't expect you to show up. This message of Zhou Quian should have been sent when he just came out of the bathroom, and it was secretly sent silently, in the sense of the people in the all-inclusive room. It seems that you are quite popular with your brothers and sisters. You want to leave and tell me. Shen King looked through the messages one by one. Suddenly, another message entered again, with only 2 words. Open the door. Shen King looked at the 2 words with his eyes wide open, and his heart beat a little faster unconsciously. She walked to the door, took a deep breath, and then opened the door. As soon as the door opened, she was quickly led back inside by a force, and then the door closed behind her. Zhou Quian. Shen King was leaned against the wall next to the door, raised his eyes, and called out carefully in a low voice. Do you know Guanlan? Zhou Quian was close to her and responded in a low voice, but there was a little smile in his tone and a strong smell of wine in his breath. It seemed that he had really drunk a lot. My brother's ex-girlfriend, Shen King, told the truth, but it was somewhat unnatural. Zhou Quian was too close, which made her unconsciously feel that her ears were hot. So it seems that the receiving feelings are not enough. Zhou Quian laughed, and the laughter reached Shen King's ears, which was very numb, as if it had been electrocuted. How did you see it? Shen King was puzzled. I remember that when she broke up with my brother before, they were not happy, but she treats you as a sister-in-law now, and Zhou Quian is very sure. It is not difficult to see from Guanlan's attitude of treating her as a child that she still has expectations for their Shen family and hopes to have something to do with them. Chapter 52 Sneaking, right? Shen King didn't quite understand. Although she also felt that Guanlan had a good attitude towards her, she didn't think about it. What's more, if she was not mistaken, her brother seemed to have a girlfriend recently. Zhou Quian whispered. Looking at her contemplation, he unconsciously got closer. Shen King, the breath of Zhou Quian fell into her ears, this time, with her name and surname. What? Shen King was distracted. When he heard Zhou Quian calling her, he hurriedly raised his eyes and looked at him. Later, he realized that it was too close. He almost touched his lips and teeth. After Shen King found the distance between the 2 people, she subconsciously wanted to step back, but Zhou Quian had already held the back of her head, making her unable to retreat. Distracted, Zhou Quian half smiled. Because of the blessing of the smell of wine, the smile was like poison, which made Shen King's heart numb. You still pretend not to know me. Zhou Quian's smile was a little stronger. While talking, the breath came to Shen King's side face, causing her to get goosebumps unconsciously. How do I know that you and Sister Lan know each other? While Shen King was talking, she didn't dare to open her lips. There was always an illusion that she didn't know when Zhou Quian would kiss her, and she didn't know whether she was looking forward to it or afraid if Zhou Quian kissed her. We are old friends. Zhou Quian smiled. The breath seemed to be closer, and he was directly on her lips. Do you want to ask this time? Zhou Quian didn't say that word, but she understood what Zhou Quian meant. Kiss her? Do you want to ask? Shen King looked up at him, raised his hand slightly, and still put it on his shoulder. The default meaning was obvious. Zhou Quian smiled, and put a smile on her lips. The moment the lips touched, the door of the bathroom was also knocked. Are you inside? Outside the door is the voice of Guanlan. Shen King opened his eyes in fright, but he couldn't push Zhou Quian away. He could only watch him being magnified close at hand, with his eyes closed. Zhou Quian tightened the back of her head. Not only did he not let go because of the sound outside, but he kissed more freely. The sound outside the door. Zhou Quian kissed deeply, and a sneaky feeling spread in Shen King's mind, which was timid and exciting. Guanlan's volume increased a little, and his tone was a little worried. Shen King squeezed the corner of Zhou Quian's clothes. Then Zhou Quian stepped back slightly, left her lips, and then looked at her with a smile. Can you let her know? Zhou Quian opened his mouth and asked in her ear in a very low voice. Shen King was entangled and hesitant. Zhou Quian raised his hand and gently pressed her lower lip, pressed lightly or heavily, then turned around and opened the door directly. Banquet. Seeing Zhou Quian standing at the door, Guanlan was a little surprised and turned her head slightly. Over Zhou Quian, she saw Shen King behind him. My fiancé, Zhou Quian, opened her mouth very directly. Guanlan was even more surprised. Why don't we go back first? There were so many people that she didn't even know them. Zhou Quian held Shen King's hand and pulled her to him, before Guanlan called. React, Zhou Qian had pulled Shen Qing away from her with a smile. Shen Qing let Zhou Qian pull her away, but she didn't take a few steps out. Shen Qing looked back again. She was a little entangled. She didn't know whether to tell Guanlan or not to tell her brother that she had seen her here, but she was worried that she had no contact. She said this herself, but it was like a different way to let them. The meaning of contacting or involving them is not very good. In the end, he didn't say anything and was pulled out of the bar by Zhou Qian. Zhou Qian walked to the side of the car, opened the door behind him, and then signaled Shen Qing to get in the car. Shen Qing's buttocks were just on the seat, and Zhou Qian also sat down beside her, and then kissed her directly without saying a word. Shen Qing did not refuse. Let Zhou Qian make a fuss until he kissed enough and let her go. Then he pulled his hair and asked in a low voice, "Shall I drive you back? I also thought that I would regret today, but I didn't expect that you could still appear." Zhou Qian did not respond to her question, but said this on his own. When he spoke, he leaned lazily on the seat and looked at her slightly. His eyes were deep, which made Shen Qing's heart restless. "My brother asked me to go to the company to help, and I had dinner with my father early tonight, so I missed the appointment." Shen Qing opened his mouth and explained everything today. "It's okay, 大姐弟, did you decide to take the right ring?" Zhou Qian spoke lazily, still leaning against him without moving. The only thing that moved was his eyes. He had been looking at Shen Qing, from his eyebrows to the corners of his lips. "Well, your eyesight has always been good." Shen Qing lowered his eyes, and Zhou Qian looked at her like this, which made her heart tighten. "Haha." Zhou Qian smiled and finally raised his hand and put it on her side face carelessly. He touched her side face, and his tongue. He was expectant and regretful. "Next month, why is it so slow?" Shen Qing swallowed, and she couldn't answer the words. "Is Zhou Qian looking forward to his married life? Because can we see each other every day?" Shen Qing knew that the experience of marrying and living with Zhou Qian should not be too bad, but he still didn't know how to reply to this. Not long after, Shen Qing bit his lip and opened his mouth. "Has the date been set?" Shen Qing smiled and just asked down in the direction of his conversation. "Well, it should be the middle of next month. At this time, my father should communicate with your father in person these 2 days." Zhou Qian's fingertips moved slightly, from her side face to her ear. With gentle eyes, he came a little closer and once again returned to the posture of kissing without kissing. Shen Qing, Shen Qing. Shen Qing was still waiting for Zhou Qi's banquet to say something. After all, he was so gentle. Unexpectedly, Zhou Qian leaned directly on her shoulder and said nothing, but just leaned against her. He really drank too much and felt dizzy. Zhou Qian showed a little weakness. "I just came back, and many social gatherings and parties can't escape. When I get married, I have a reason to refuse and go home early." Zhou Qian whispered, as if he was talking to himself, and as if he was talking to Shen Qing. "Why did you come back?" Shen Qing didn't dare to move, for fear that Zhou Qian would be uncomfortable. She just lowered her eyes slightly and asked this question. She never seemed to have asked why Zhou Qian had been abroad for so long and suddenly came back now. If Zhou Qian doesn't come back, she doesn't know how to deal with the marriage in the end. He will come back after all. Zhou Qian laughed in a low voice. After a pause for 2 seconds, he continued to speak. "He came back just right and could marry you." Chapter 53. Neither hate nor dislike. Time has become extremely long. Zhou Qian leaned on Shen Qing's shoulder and said nothing more, and the whole car fell into silence. Shen Qing could feel the breath exhaled by Zhou Qian on her neck, which was warm and gentle, like a cotton caressing. Zhou Qian didn't speak again, and Shen Qing didn't take the initiative to speak. Anyway, he sat up straight and let Zhou Qian lean on her. As time went by, Shen Qing was a little suspicious that Zhou Qi's banquet would not fall asleep against her. "Zhou Qian," Shen Qing called in a low voice. "It's just a test to see if Zhou Qian is asleep. If he really fell asleep, I didn't want to wake him up." Zhou Qian responded to her softly and did not fall asleep. After moving his body, Zhou Qian sat up straight, then looked down at Shen Qing, raised his hand and pinched her shoulder. "Was he tired?" "It's okay, I thought you were asleep." Shen Qing smiled. "Can I take you back?" Shen Qing looked at him and said this again. There seemed to be a little reluctance and unwillingness in Zhou Qian's eyes, but he didn't say anything in the end. He just nodded with a smile. The two people changed to the driver's seat and the co-driver's seat. When Shen Qing started the car, he could feel that Zhou Qian's eyes had been looking at her. Zhou Qian's eyes were already very breathtaking, not to mention that after drinking, the slow appreciation always unconsciously revealed some sense of danger. Zhou Qian's eyes followed all the way. He really waited for the car to stop downstairs before he withdrew his gaze. Shen Qing was relieved. Halfway, several times, she felt that Zhou Qian might pounce on her. When Zhou Qian unfastened his seatbelt, he came a little closer to Shen Qing and said, "I drank wine. I can't see you off anymore. You drive back." "No, I went outside to take a taxi, and Shen King whispered back to him, if she drives the car back, her brother may see it tomorrow morning. Zhou Qian seemed to be silent for a few seconds, then helped her fasten her seatbelt, and then helped her push the car door open. He also turned around and got out of the car. Before getting out of the car, he said, okay, even if you take a taxi, then I can still see you off. Shen King frowned and saw Zhou Qian coming in front of her when he got out of the car. Then he directly grabbed her wrist and pulled her out. Shen King's wrist was warm and she was pulled out. She looked at Zhou Qian's side face and didn't understand what was the meaning of her trip. Originally, she came to help Zhou Qian drive. Now it's hard to drive to Zhou Qian's place. Zhou Qian has to accompany her to take a taxi back. This trip is lonely. I don't know why. Shen King, a sentence flashed through his mind. It seems that couples are often like this, and they always do some recess. It's meaningless. Only the person concerned enjoys it. The two got into the car at the intersection. After getting on the car, Shen King kept looking out of the window, looking at the scenery flashing outside the window, looking at it for half a minute. He looked back at Zhou Qian's face, as if those scenery could not attract her eyes more than Zhou Qian. What's the matter? Zhou Qian could feel her gaze and asked with a smile. I don't know what I'm doing this night. Shen King was a little helpless and told the truth. It's very fulfilling. Zhou Qian laughed. He shook his hand, and then held Shen King's palm silently, laughing. You can have a good sleep tonight. Shen King didn't say anything more, but he didn't break free and let Zhou Qian hold her. After a long time, Shen King turned to look at him again and asked, you used to. Is it the same? Shen King looked into Zhou Qian's eyes when he spoke. What was it before? Zhou Qian looked at her and asked back. Shen King, her former girlfriend, said that she met Guan today. She thought that Zhou Qian was about the same age as her brother. Her brother had a past, and Zhou Qian's past should be more or less emotional, right? Facing Zhou Qian's eyes, Shen King continued to speak unnaturally. He didn't want to inquire about your past. I just felt that you could always make people feel warm and needed just right, which made people have a sweet illusion. Illusion. Zhou Qian frowned slightly, and the key point he found seemed to be different from Shen King's question. After looking at each other for several seconds, Zhou Qian smiled helplessly. The process of liking a person is very slow, but it is a matter of minutes to hate a person. So, be cautious. I'm quite worried that you hate me. Once they hate each other, they will be very painful. After all, they already know that they are going to be husband and wife. If they don't like each other, it will be difficult to live every day. If they get along well and have some good feelings, life will be much happier. I don't hate it. Shen King shook his head quickly. Zhou Qian looked at her eyes, unconsciously exploring, but it was so faint that it could hardly be seen. I don't hate it, but I don't like it either. Zhou Qian was half smiling, and I don't know if it was a joke. Shen King looked at him and was speechless. It's okay. It's almost time. Seeing Shen King's silence, Zhou Qian smiled again and pinched the back of her hand, as if he didn't care about the result. Just asked casually. Shen King lowered his eyes. To be honest, she doesn't hate Zhou Qian, but after all, they have known each other for so long and have been together for so long. She can't say whether they like it or not. The word like carries too much and should not be said easily. The car stopped quickly. Zhou Qian let go of Shen King's hand and helped her push the car door. I watched you go in. Good night. When Shen King got out of the car, Zhou Qian's eyes still followed her. Shen King's figure disappeared, and Zhou Qian asked the master to drive away. When Shen King got home, the room was dark. Her departure and return should not have alarmed anyone. She sneaked back to her room, then took out her mobile phone and responded to Zhou Qian's good night with a message. Good night. She sent a message to Zhou Qian. Go to bed early. Zhou Qian replied to her. She replied to ask Zhou Qian to rest early when he got home, but Zhou Qian did not reply. Shen King put down his mobile phone, took a deep breath and sat on the edge of the bed. Shen King didn't know whether what Zhou Qian said today was a test, and he didn't know whether his silence was right or not. But how could Zhou Qian ask such a question? Does Zhou Qian like her? She still feels that Zhou Qian is a well-rounded person, a moderate person, who does not make people feel embarrassed or lost. But this all come from his upbringing, and the upcoming marriage between them should have little to do with love. Chapter 54. After a few days on a business trip, when Shen King woke up in the morning, he subconsciously glanced at the time. Fortunately, it was not particularly late. She slept for a while and almost forgot that her brother asked her to go to the company to help. When Shen Haoji came out of the room, he was still at home and having breakfast. Brother, it's not too late, is it? Shen King raised his feet to the dining table and saw her breakfast on the table. Shen Haoji should have wanted to wait for her. Isn't it too late? 问号. Shen Haoji turned his eyes to look at her. For some reason, Shen King had an illusion that what they were talking about didn't seem to be a problem. It was only after 8 o'clock. Shen King whispered and looked at him carefully. I thought you would sleep until noon. You didn't go to bed early last night. Shen Haoji looked at Shen King, who came forward, and said this. The implit was obvious. He didn't get up yesterday, but he should know what Shen King had done. Your wedding date is set for the middle of next month. During this period, don't run out again. When Shen King pulled out the chair and sat down, Shen Haoji said this. Oh, Shen King nodded, paused for 2 seconds and continued. The wedding date mentioned by the Zhou family. Shen Haoji looked at her, and his eyes were a little serious. Shall we have a chat? You say, I listen. Shen King quickly sat down. Do you still like Zhou Zixuan?